Sorry about that, babe.
What's up, guys? I wanted to do a brief intro here for both versions of the No Death run for Zelda 2. I'm all disheveled. My kids' castle's behind me. Cats are running around, so it's going to be very quick, down and dirty. So, finished up my first ever playthrough of Zelda 2, which is going to be on my channel. Probably should be already. Go check that out. I'll leave it in the pinned comment and description below. I then played the game again afterwards to kind of route things out and get used to some areas that were kind of tough and enemies that I was having a lot of trouble with during my first playthrough. Then I started my no death attempts. It took me 3 attempts. One of them ended in the Ocean Palace. One of them ended in the path to the Grand Palace, whatever the last palace is called. I think it's the Grand Palace or the Great Palace, one or the other. And then finally we got it. 3rd time's a charm, right? The major thing that I want to stress here in this video is that it was segmented, but not in the way of like, oh, you know, I put my best segments together, this, that, and the other. Pretty much what I did was I took breaks. I can't play a game for 3 or 4 hours straight, and that's how long the run takes me. The original run that died in the Ocean Palace was probably going to take me about 4.5 hours. When I died in the Ocean Palace, it was already like 12:30 midnight, and I had work the next day. I was about to just stop and go to bed anyway. That was the longest like straight through attempt that I took. So for the actual attempt that you guys are going to see, it's segmented together. I took 3 breaks. I allowed myself 3 breaks. The breaks could only occur on the overworld. They could not be in the palace. They could not be in the town. They could not be while in battle. I will put on the video where the breaks were. I think the breaks were, I'm trying to remember real quick. I took a break before Midoro Palace in the swamp. I think I then took a break before the Ocean Palace because I was triggered after dying there. And then I took a break. Yeah, the last break was after getting the red potion on the way to the Great Palace, because that's where I died before as well. Pretty much I was taking a breather, collecting my thoughts, and finally we got it done on the 3rd attempt. There's going to be a no commentary version and a commentary version, so choose whichever one you want to watch. If you guys enjoy it, feel free to like both, why not? And yeah, enjoy the runs, guys. Alright guys, I'm undergoing my most arduous voiceover work yet for Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link No Death. It's going to be a little bit hands-off at times, kind of discussing like theories and whatnot, but first off, we go down south here, as you can see, into the Dark Cave. We do not have the candle yet, but that's totally fine as long as you are careful coming through here, especially if you have not gotten hit. That way you can shoot your projectiles at the enemies. These guys, as long as you stay crouched down, they will not be able to hit you because of the shield. Just take your time here. Gets you some decent experience too along the way, but most importantly, you get an early extra magic container. So now we bumped our magic up to 5. Eventually, we will be maxing out our levels and all of our magic and life containers during this run. But we get a good head start there, as well as an early heart container coming up in a little bit. But realistically, guys, the name of the game here at the beginning is pretty much just kind of gearing up. We do a lot of grinding, especially at Parappa Palace. You know, like I said, we got the magic container and the life container, and we get the shield spell pretty early as well. I probably should have brought up some other notes while I was doing this, shouldn't I? You know what? I might just do that now on the fly. Why not? Let's see. Can I do it? Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. Clickety-clicking around here. But basically we're going into the first town here to get the shield spell, which is going to be very, very important throughout the course of the game. I can't really emphasize it enough. It's one of, if not the most, it's probably the most used spell in the game. Speaking of that, it's probably good that we talk about kind of just general strategies and hints to keep in mind during this playthrough. One is never be afraid to use your magic. There's always plenty of ways to recuperate your magic, whether it be from drops from random enemies, random drops from random enemies, going back to the town to use the magic replenisher, you know, finding magic containers throughout, leveling up your magic, so on and so forth. Never be afraid to use it. There will be instances, of course, later in the game where we're going to need a required amount of magic in order to even progress. Like, you'll have to cast Fairy, you know, like the last boss of the game, you have to cast Thunder. There's even going to be some magic strategies that I don't really employ during this run, like using the spell late in the game, which kind of, I wouldn't say it nullifies enemies, but it dumbs them down. Like, it turns really tough enemies into like these types of enemies right here that you're seeing. It's a strategy that I will get to later on in the video that I do not employ myself, but pretty much what we're doing here at the beginning of the run, like I said, is we're going around, we're grinding, we're hitting up all the extra spots for P bags, for containers, whatever spells, everything that we can get prior to Parappa Palace. So basically, the low-level goal here, aside from just general grinding and gearing up and then getting through Parappa Palace, is ultimately we want to be as juiced as possible before we head into Death Mountain, because Death Mountain, for many players, including myself, first-time players, even, you know, people that are doing challenge runs, is probably the first major hurdle, you know what I mean? Like, very easy to die there. If you are under-leveled, good luck, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. Now, you know, I touched on it in my little intro video to this. I had only been playing this game for about 2 weeks. This particular playthrough was my third time ever beating the game in about 2 weeks. I did my first ever playthrough, I did a practice run, and I did 2 failed runs of this no-death attempt, and then finally this one. So, I don't consider my skills to be elite by any means. I don't even know the game in and out like the back of my hand. You'll probably see many instances throughout this run where I might kind of pause a little bit, or I might literally go the wrong way. It's because I don't remember everything about it. It's a very, very big, vast game, pretty big overworld. And for somebody like me who hasn't been speedrunning it, hasn't been playing it that long, you know, just beating it for the first time, as of the day of me recording this voiceover, is probably 2.5 to 3 weeks ago when I beat it for the first time, you know what I mean? So it's not like this wasn't a childhood game of mine or anything like that. I probably know the original Legend of Zelda a little bit more than this one. And even that one I haven't played that much. But if you're wondering why we're grinding here, that's exactly why. These guys drop P bags occasionally. Most of the time they either drop nothing or they drop blue magic containers, vials, whatever you want to call them. But occasionally they drop P bags, and I actually found during the course of my no-death attempts that enemies were pretty generous with the P bag drops, I'm not gonna lie. Kind of helps things, you know, speed up the process of the grind, because getting back to the overarching things, you know, we were talking about spell usage earlier. The next thing is, don't be afraid to grind, you know? The higher your levels are, the easier the early, mid-game, and even the end game will be, you know what I mean? Like, if you go into Death Mountain with a 1 attack, a 2 attack, or even a 3 attack, it's gonna be way harder than if you go there with a 4 attack, which is ultimately my goal. In my opinion, attack is the most important thing to level up as quickly as you possibly can. And Zelda 2 gives you the ability to pass up on leveling. Like, let's say you hit a threshold to level life. You don't have to. You could pass it, and then it'll move to the next threshold, which is magic. You don't have to do that either. You could pass it again, so on and so forth. So, for me, I try to level up my attack first, life would be second, and magic would be third. Obviously, you want to be 888 towards the end of the game no matter what. But a higher attack definitely helps the earlier game more, and in my opinion, life, especially early game, is better, because you just want to be able to eat more damage, basically. But along with the general grinding, you know, random encounters, when we go to Parappa Palace, you'll see me grinding on those enemies that are kind of like floating circles. You gotta bear with me here, I'm not like super duper up to date on my Zelda lore and shit like that. I do have the instruction manual, but it's over there. I don't really feel like getting it right now. So I don't know the names of all these enemies. You're gonna see me describing these enemies in layman's terms throughout this run. Like, oh, the red guy that throws a boomerang, or, you know, at the final palace, it's gonna be the red bird thing that shoots fire. I do want to mention these types of segments. Obviously, early on, you don't really have much choice but to just be careful and get through. One thing is my footage messing up? I can't tell if it's if it was me pausing the game or the capture card messed up there, but it seems like it's getting a little glitchy on my end. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's my video player. Hopefully it's my video player. But we'll see, I suppose. So anyways, we worked our way around there before Parappa Palace to go down here to this little, not so secret looking square, right? That had the heart container. So now we have a heart and a magic container level up before heading into the palace. That's pretty good. You know, allow us to cast shield a little bit more easily. It'll allow us to eat a little bit more damage. Because the first palace actually isn't that easy either. There's a reason why I grind things. You know, my first playthrough, I'm pretty sure I took a continue or two in the first palace, you know, alone, which is super early into the game. You know, you can go right here immediately without doing any of the things that I've done so far, which I wouldn't recommend. But yeah, if you see me like pussyfoot around in this game, it's probably because I'm either looking at my notes or I'm looking at a map or something like that, you know, because like I said, I get lost a lot. I can't remember everything in this game. This palace isn't particularly too difficult to get lost in. The name of the game in Zelda 2 for the palaces is basically every palace, I believe every palace, has an item, right, that you're ultimately trying to get. And the item helps you out in the overworld mostly. I don't think all of them are necessary. Like, I think you can beat the game, for example, without getting the candle. It just makes everything dark, like you can't see a lot of things, which is pretty annoying. I recommend just getting everything. And then ultimately you beat a boss and you place a crystal or a gem in this statue thing, which will fill up your experience to the next level threshold, which is another thing that I wanted to talk about. It's very important for you to time those appropriately. And what do I mean by that? I mean, let's say, like you see how right now we're 81-100, right? We do not want to beat the boss right now and then place the, you know, the crystal in the statue and gain 19 experience points. It'll kick you to the next level threshold. So what I try to do, especially early in the game, here's an example. See how we're at 500 attack there for attack level? Like, let's say I was a little impatient. What I would probably do is I would probably grind up past 150, and then as soon as we bump into the 500 threshold for attack, I would then go beat the boss, place the crystal, and then it would bump me up and I'd be able to upgrade my attack. I believe we try to get our attack up to, like I said, level 4 by the time we leave here. So we probably get it up to 3 by boss time, and then after the boss we'll be able to level it up to 4. I can't recall what exactly I do in this run, but that's the general strat. And you see these guys that I've been whacking away here for quite a few seconds now already? These guys are our life's blood. You're gonna see me doing a lot of grinding. A lot of this footage isn't gonna be that interesting, guys. You know, I mentioned before, we're gonna be grinding for experience, we're gonna be grinding for magic vials. Lots of grinding, guys. You know, between Parappa Palace and getting to Medoro, which is the second palace in the game, obviously there's a lot to do in between. Or, is it Medoro? Or is it Mido's the town, right? Yeah, Medoro Palace and Mido towns nearby. So after Parappa Palace, you got to do quite a bit of off-roading, if you will. We're going to be getting more spells, getting more experience, getting more upgrades, finding more items, so on and so forth, before we even get to Medoro, which is the second palace. With Death Mountain kind of being in the middle, the reason why we're doing all this stuff right now is we got to be geared up for Death Mountain. Death Mountain is no joke. Never will be, no matter how good I get at this game. Excuse me. So you probably, yeah, level up life there, which is fine. And then I believe I'm probably gonna skip the next magic upgrade and try to upgrade my attack to get it to 3. But yeah, I feel like a radio personality trying to make sure there's no dead air. I'm going to always, when I'm in palaces, try to go along as much as I can organically. Not just for more entertainment for you guys, but also just because, honestly, you know, I'm trying to maintain my own sanity here. I don't want to bang on those fucking skull guys for an hour straight, but if I have to, I have to. So these, like, sort of hammer bro enemies are actually really easy to manipulate. The strat that I have for them is, when they throw their hammer things, there's kind of like an arch or an arc. You could sneak in, and once you sneak in, most of those enemies are near a wall of some sort. And this goes for a lot of enemies. If you could pin enemies against walls, it makes them a lot easier to hit because they can't go back anymore. A lot of the enemies have like the retreat mode, if you will, with probably the most annoying ones in the game being the blue knights that throw like daggers and knives later on. Because they have the ability to back up through locked doors, which is really freaking annoying. Like, honestly, other than some of the enemies in the final palace, those blue knights that throw daggers are still like my least favorite enemies in the game. They're tough. They are tough because they throw low and high, which ends up bouncing you off sometimes, whether or not, you know, you're jumping in or you're just going in straight, but they're not here yet, so won't worry about them. I also wanted to point out, guys, that since this run is so long, much like I couldn't play the game straight through, I'm going to be doing segmented voiceovers, and I'm doing my best to have timestamps and time codes so I could edit it a little bit easier. I did that with my Metroid run. I had to do 2 sets of voiceovers, and I had to spend like an extra 15 minutes trying to line up the freaking VOs perfectly. It was really annoying, but that is a more technical thing that I guess you guys don't need to know about. Speaking of technical thing, I'm sure you saw when I came down here, the screen transition, and I'm sure if you've been watching my channel, you see it as well. A lot of games, when they transfer screens and they go to black, you'll see, like, artifacting? Glitching, if you will. Something with my Elgato in old games, I don't know what's up with it, but... So, there on the disappearing bridge, I get a 50p, which is nice. I was afraid of that early in my first playthrough. Then I realized that if you basically like crouch or stab downward later on when we get that ability, the game has a brief moment before you fall down. It's not as instant as you think. So as long as you're careful there, you can get that really easily, and I think there's another 1 or 2 that we might grab throughout our run. Alright, yep, so we skipped magic, and then we also skipped life, because the next life threshold popped up at 400. So we are going to be indeed going for 3 attack, which is smart, especially since we're so close to it now. And there we obtained the candle, which I said allows us to see things in dark areas, which is great. That way, you know, you could deal with, enemies are no longer hidden, or silhouetted, if you will. And just be careful. On these things, as long as you just keep moving, you're fine. It's just, as soon as you start going backwards or whatever, things can get a little tricky. You'll have like a split second to maybe react differently. Later on in the game, there will be actual enemies on those, which makes it a little trickier, but by then you usually have your downward thrust, so you could always have that out just in case. And if you have your fairy spell and you fall down, you could pop that before you die. So here, I'm doing a little bit of grinding just to get to the 500 threshold, which we do. Leveling up our attack. So now, our next goal is we want to get to attack 4, but I want to level that up with the crystal placement at the end of the palace. So most likely what I think I'm going to end up doing here is probably leveling up. I might just level up magic and life. I don't know if I skip anything. That remains to be seen. But my general rule of thumb is I want to go into Death Mountain with 434 is ideal. 444 is like perfect in my opinion. You should have more than enough oomph and gusto to get done what you need done with 434. I mean, honestly, if you're good enough, you could probably get away with a 323 right now. It just makes things a lot easier when you get that 4 attack, I'm telling you. So unfortunately, guys, these enemies are the best things to farm early in the game because they offer up 50 experience points and they constantly respawn. Now, these enemies get a little bit easier to kill once you get the downward thrust, but we are a ways away from getting that. So we're just doing what we have to. And there's really not much to talk about in this segment, to be honest with you. So if I ever feel like we're reaching a spot where I'm just filling up the airtime just to fill it up, probably just mute myself until I'm done, but we're gonna be whacking away on these guys for a little while. And I don't believe I grabbed it yet, but in Parappa Palace there is a ferry. So if you don't feel like actually backtracking out and going back to town or something like that, which could be a little bit treacherous, you do have an option for a full heal in this palace without having to level up, of course. And we're also a little ways away from getting the life spell, so probably part of the reason why the early game is so hard is you can't even heal yourself yet, you know? I was under the impression that you could. I did not know at the time going into the game that the vials were just for magic. Definitely be careful here. I can't remember if it was this run or my other run, but I almost died farming. I really wasn't worried by any means, but I was really close to dying. You know, at this point I've already done the beginning of the game like, what, 5 times between all my runs, so wasn't really worried about anything in here. Pretty much when the run hits like the Ocean Palace area, that's where my familiarity went down a lot, I think, because I spent so much time, you know, kind of not perfecting but practicing the beginning of the game. And getting through Death Mountain, this, that, and the other, that I think by the time I get to the Ocean Palace, things were a little bit more, I don't know, just not as routed, if you will. Alright, so we do choose to level up magic, which is fine. And I believe that we do grind up to level up our life. And then we probably head off. Oh wait, no, I think the magic threshold will pop up before the attack one for level 4, so we possibly skip that, but I feel like we're gonna level up life again. But we're just doing more whacking away on these guys, so there's really not much to say. I would say that the run does get a little less grindy after the beginning. Towards the end of the game, there's a really good grind spot where a random encounter, you're able to very easily get, what is it, I think 310 experience in like, I don't know, less than 10 seconds, so. And we do employ some strategies before certain palaces, because a lot of the palaces in the game offer up statues where if you hit them, they have a chance to drop red vials, which replenishes your magic completely, or they have the ability to drop red knight enemies, which I think might be called like Iron Knuckles or something. I don't know, I could be pulling that out of my ass, but they give 100 experience a pop, and the more you get used to them and the higher your attack is, you end up killing them in 3, 2, or 1 hits. And yeah, really good farming spots. A little bit more entertaining than these, that's for sure. So yeah, I'm actually just gonna kind of chill back here for a little bit, give my voice a rest, and we're just gonna continue to grind until we reach kind of the next threshold. We want to time it up so we could fill up a massive level for an attack upgrade at the end of this palace. Alright, and it clearly looks like I was getting impatient and wanted a little bit more action. So we grabbed the ferry as you saw and we came down here. We were fighting the Orange Knight, who for beginners is definitely very difficult until you get the timing down. But luckily we were able to very quickly and organically hit the next threshold, which I believe... Do we cancel it? We do cancel it, okay. I don't remember my reasoning for that. Unless I'm getting really impatient, which is very possible. And then I skip the magic upgrade. And then I use the palace level up for the freaking attack. Maybe I get it organically. I can't even remember at this point. You know, when you've done a few runs, things kind of blur together in your brain, you know what I mean? Just kind of giving you guys the general strat of it all. So if we were to continue on through there, we would eventually reach the boss, and we definitely do not want to do that yet. So we're gonna head back to Old Faithful. Skull Guy Blue Blob Broom. What are the blue blobs have weird names? I can't remember what they're called. Is there somewhere for me to look it up easily? I don't. Let me see. I mean, I got time to kill here. We're doing boring shit, so. Parappa Palace. Bots. They're called bots, that's right. I always thought that was a bit weird. They're literally just like blobs or slimes. Maybe they didn't want to get sued by Enix. Dragon Warrior style, right? So yeah, we're about to see how either impatient I get, or it's possible that I end up just organically leveling up my my attack, which is a little bit annoying because, you know, at 50 a pop, it's a ways away from 1,000 total, so. But, you know, one of my hints and tips to a run like this is, you know, maintaining your sanity while grinding. Be patient. Patience is key. The more impatient you get, the worse things get, you know what I mean? Like, if you're impatient in this game, man, one false move and you're fucking dead in a hole. And that's the truth, whether it's tough enemies or pitfalls. So after another round of this, we'll see what we're gonna do here. I do promise that the run gets a little bit more exciting. Basically, after this type of stuff, really the only quote-unquote boring grinding that I end up doing is the said palace statues, where whether I need experience or I gotta, you know, refill up my health and my vials. What am I doing here? What am I doing? I'm not going to the boss right now, am I? That wouldn't make any sense. It's almost like a live stream experience. I'm sitting here, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Do I really go for the boss? Why am I doing this? Oh yeah, because the boss gives you like 15 or 25 experience, I think. I think that's why I did it. Yeah. Because it should bump me to the threshold and then I'll be able to skip it. Yeah, okay. So anyways, boss strategy there, I didn't even talk about it. It's the one of the easiest bosses in the game as long as you're leveled up. You just jump and hit his head. That's literally it. If you have like attack level 2, if you're like 233, which is even less than what I am right now, you'll be fine. Yeah, so I do get impatient. Instead of grinding this up, I just place the, what is it exactly? Is it a gem? Let's find out. Let's find out here. Crystal. There we are. And we leveled up our attack to 4, which was our main goal before going to Death Mountain. So, we have now obtained the candle, a magic container, a heart container, placed our first crystal, beat our first boss. We are now 433. And we are going to be heading to Rudo Town. We do have a little detour that we need to do before then, which we will discuss. But we're feeling like we're in a good spot for Death Mountain. You know, some other levels are more easily obtainable along the way at this point. The toughest one always is leveling up attack, just because it requires so much experience. But we're going to go up here into this cavern or cave, where ultimately we're going to be getting a statue. Now, this is one of the first instances of the big-time pitfalls. These guys jump and shoot, so whatever you do, don't duck. In one of my practice runs that was not recorded, I ducked and I got hit and I died. And there you can see the attack level 4 on full display with the red boomerang guy. Just wrecked him. You know, in the strat that I was telling you guys about, pushing enemies against the wall, you couldn't go anywhere basically. And because my attack was so high, you really couldn't do anything. Where if you come in here at attack level 2 and he's not against the wall, those guys can cause you big time problems. They caused me a lot of problems. I did learn how to deal with the boomerang guys though in my first playthrough, because I was getting so annoyed by them that I started grinding them and I just kind of learned how to fight them. They are big thorn in the side for first time players, but now we are in Ruto Town, where the main goal is we're going to be presenting a statue to a woman in order to get the jump spell, which is required in order to continue. You'll see me in towns pop in and out to refill my magic in my life. The orange lady and the red dress lady do that typically. This one, however, is leading us to the spell. And I think I also pop into Error's house. I can't remember if Error is in Ruto or Saria. But I think I pop in there just for the lulz for you guys. I don't think you have to talk to Error though. So now with the jump spell, like I said, we're going to be able to push on. We reach a point where there's a ledge that's too high where we need the jump spell. So from here, we're going to be heading to Saria Town, which is through this cave into the south. Now again, if you're a lower level, even these areas could be a little bit tough. With these enemies, like I said, they jump and shoot, so keep that in mind with your positioning. Pretty easy though, especially with full health 4 attack. Now we're going to get into some more open area red boomerang guys. You could be a little bit sloppier at my level for sure. Make sure when you can to turn around and deflect any boomerangs as to not take any unnecessary damage. See me constantly casting shield. That is in my best interest. I have a lot of magic, and these enemies can hurt quite a bit if you know, like especially with the boomerang guys, you can get hit by 2 or 3 boomerangs before you know it. Even at a higher level, it could still do a decent amount of damage without shield equipped, so. One thing I do want to mention is enemies that are colored blue have a propensity to drop blue magic vials. So if you're ever running short on magic, farm blue enemies. They farm them, or they drop them the easiest in my opinion. Red enemies though do have the ability sometimes to drop full magic vials. And that little segment before we left the cave was exactly what I was referring to with needing jump in order to advance. So now we're going to be by Swamplands, where if you walk in it, you walk very, very slowly. I think we're doing a little bit of grinding here. This is actually a pretty easy grind segment. Not this one in particular, the lower level monster. The big level monster drops these fucking birds, which can be kind of annoying. But the lower level one is just those enemies, the red enemies that shoot the projectiles at you, and I told you that they jump and shoot. So as long as you're standing here, you're probably not going to get hit. There you saw an oddball one shoot low, but that typically doesn't happen too much. And they also have the ability to drop key bags, which is very good. So it looks like we're doing, like I said, a little bit of grinding. I do like to have my life at level 4 before Death Mountain, so that's probably what's going on here. There's some things also in this game, guys, that I'm not showing you in this run. There's a lot of, like, Link dolls, which serve as 1-ups. Most of them are hidden, or hidden in palaces. Hidden on the overworld mostly, but some of them are in palaces. I think I pick up one or two. I think I pick up one by accident, actually. But obviously, since I'm not trying to die, I don't care about them, so I'm not grabbing them. So if you're looking for, like, a true, you know, casual run-through guide, I am not picking that stuff up, but it would be very, very much advised. Because the penalty for dying isn't that bad, but the penalty for losing a continue kind of sucks, because you end up getting sent back to the initial palace with Princess Zelda, and if you did not reach a new level, you lose all the experience that you had. Not like, your levels don't go down to 111, but like, let's say my level threshold was like 1000 and I had 999 experience, and then I had to use a continue, I would lose all of it, so. Be careful if you're playing like that, but if you're not trying to die, continue watching this one. It's all in the game, baby. You just gotta keep grinding away, leveling up, and being patient. So we got out of the swamplands there, because it looks like I'm no longer interested in grinding, as evidenced by the dodging of the enemies. And I believe we might be going to Bagu's house. Bagu is a character that is located in these woods. However, there are a lot of trap tiles in these woods. So be careful. Do as I do. There, I got hit by an enemy, unfortunately, as I walked into the woods. This wasn't, obviously very sloppy. Wasn't really prepared for this. I mean, I'll gladly take the experience, but I'm getting beat around quite a bit here. This was not planned. So that path that I took there leads you directly to Bagu. Just follow that if you don't want to deal with any extraneous bullshit going through the forest. Bagu gives you a note to show to the Riverman in Saria Town, which he will then bring up a bridge that allows us to go to Death Mountain. Almost like, thanks but no thanks, buddy. Didn't want to go there, but you have to, so. This might be the beginning of my manipulations? I might be going to get the ferry. But I may or may not be starting my manipulations, which I learned from speedrunners, so I'll explain that quickly. If you know that there's an area with a trap tile coming up, yeah, it looks like I'm going for the ferry. Hidden ferry there, in that little random section of wood. But if you know there's a trap tile coming up, if you encounter a random battle on a trap tile or walking into a trap tile, the random encounter will supersede the trap tile, and 9.5 times out of 10, the random encounter is not as hard as the trap tile. The trap tiles typically have tough enemies, they have pitfalls, so on and so forth. And a good way to do it is to pause your game. That way you could see slower where the enemy encounter is moving. And I do that a lot in this, especially at the end. Looks like I don't do it here. This one's not too bad. My advice is when the heads come up, just duck. If you need to, turn around and block, because they can shoot fireballs. This one doesn't have a pitfall though, so it's not too bad. And there are a few areas to grind and grab key bags, so it's looking like I'm doing a little bit of that. Because since, you know, I'm not dying, I'm not saving the game, I'm leaving the game on, basically, during this run. You know, there's not going to be any save and quit shenanigans. We're going to try to get as much experience as we need, because we're ultimately going to be 888 across the board. So now we're in Saria Town. We're going to do a couple things here. We got our letter from Bagu, which is most important, but we're going to be examining underneath there. I closed out of the dialogue box really quickly, but basically there was a mirror there. We're going to be giving the mirror to a woman, who then brings us inside and allows us to talk to, I don't know if it's her brother, husband, father, whomever, a wizard that will teach us the life spell. Thank God, now we can heal ourselves. Also very important to go into Death Mountain with the life spell, of course, goes without saying. And that's really all there is to do in this town. The last thing to do, technically, you know, aside from getting the spell and healing yourself or whatever, you know, the other houses, is presenting Bagu's letter, where we then can cross the town to go to Death Mountain. This might be one of those instances where I wasn't sure what I was doing, possibly. Looks like I'm going to be grinding a little bit more, but as I was kind of jimmying my way around that house, I think I was like, wait a minute, is there something else I need to do here? You know, guys, I'm no expert. I'm just an everyday gamer, everyday retro gamer trying to help out, you know. If my videos could help you guys beat certain segments or games themselves, I did my job, and that's all that matters. So this is another decent farming spot. Even those encounters aren't terrible, but I prefer the boomerang guys because I feel like I'm really good at them. The boomerang guy encounters, I'll go to the right first, then to the left. It just makes things easier. What do you get? 40 between them, and sometimes they drop key bags because they're orange. 45, yeah. So it's an easy 45, pretty quick. There's really no way to sugarcoat it. You know, grinding's never really going to be entertaining, but I will say action RPGs, action adventure games like this, you know, it's a little bit more intensive than just holding down the A button, you know. Not saying that's a bad thing. I love turn-based RPGs, of course, but... Alright, so we got about 25 minutes left of voiceover until I take my break, which coincides with my real break on the videos. See how I'm doing it? So I'm trying to remember if I go all the way here. I might go all the way to 700 in order to get a 444 across the board before we go into Death Mountain, or I might get impatient knowing that there's a bunch of tough enemies in Death Mountain that give good experience. So I might get close to the point where I'm just going to level up my magic, which is actually a smart strat. Because that way, if you're running low on magic and you level it up while you're in Death Mountain, you get a free insta replenishment, basically. Yeah, the beginning of the game is quite weird. I feel like the last two-thirds, last half of the game become a little bit more streamlined. I feel like the beginning of the game, there's a lot more to explore and a lot more, like, almost optional stuff. Like, you guys are noticing I'm doing all this stuff. This run ends up being a little bit over 3 hours, I think. I'm doing all this stuff, and I haven't even gone to the second palace yet. You know what I mean? Because Death Mountain isn't even a palace. It's just like an obstacle. There's a lot of towns, a lot of, like, secret blocks, a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of areas to grind, so there's so much to do early in the game. It can actually be a little bit overwhelming for a new player. Like, I feel like on my first playthrough, I think I missed the one-up Link doll until I was grinding and I randomly just, like, found it. I think there's one up to the north somewhere, across the bridge. I don't even remember where it is, honestly, because I might have grabbed it once and that was it. You know, beyond that, I'm just trying not to die, so I'm not even bothering grabbing them at all. But we're inching ever so close to our level threshold, yeah, and it looks like I took that strat, which is exactly what I thought I was gonna do, which was, get close enough to where I can organically just level up my magic while I'm going through Death Mountain. So I'm gonna start giving you my thoughts here on Death Mountain and my strats, because Death Mountain is a big friggin' roadblock for a lot of people. And there you saw I refilled my life with my magic spell because I was right next to the magic lady, so it makes sense, right? So for Death Mountain, be patient, use your shield spell, and if you need to farm for vials, do so. Simple stuff, but like, the not farming, the not being patient, and the not using your shield will get you in a load of trouble. And then of course, if you can, make your level as close to this as possible. Especially attack, because you're going to be fighting some tough enemies. So there we presented Bagu's thing, and now we're in Death Mountain. The gist of Death Mountain is you keep going to the right and south. You, like, never really go to the left unless it's the only way for you to go. It's like a pseudo maze, but the correct path is the one that I'm taking you on. This section is considerably easier when you have the projectile because those red enemies get hit by it. Without the projectile, they can become a little bit tougher, so just equip your shield spell and hope for the best. And as you can see, I'm already being overly cautious for my run. I'm farming these guys to try to get a blue magic vial. And typically, they will drop, I would say, like 1 out of every 5 or 6. So we're probably gonna get a drop now. Maybe? Yep. Took 6. Confident enough at this point. There is also opportunities to get red vials throughout here. Not like in every single segment, but... making my choice. What do I want to do? Do I do magic or do I skip it? And I choose to go with it to have 444 across the board, which is good since we are using shield, life, and jump throughout our adventures in Death Mountain. Boomerang guys, same strat, push them against the wall. Try to avoid the boomerangs when you can. The red guys, they jump and fire, so keep that in mind. Again, I have shield spell equipped. Keep going to the right. Blue guys, if you need vials, these guys will drop them. Especially with this many on the screen, I'd be shocked if there wasn't at least 1 drop from all these guys. You never know, though. Making me out to be a fool? Wow. Well, if you were to leave and go back, you would surely get one. So these guys, the best strat, honestly, is jump and whack at the head, and I try to pull back. Try to get out of the range. I think you can kind of like push them a little bit more, though, meaning like, if you just go ham into them, they can't hit you, but I like to pull back once in a while. Kind of give myself a little extra frame. So here, same strat as the other bridge, except you can see they are fireball happy now, where they weren't on the other bridge. Keep going right. We're about midway. In this segment, you have the ability to get a red vial, which replenishes all your magic. However, you have to cast jump in order to get up there. So we do shield, and then jump. We go grab it. And also, if you are good with your jumps, you could basically avoid these enemies throughout here. Now, I wanted to give a good strat on these guys, because these guys are annoying too, but I'll be honest with you, with the jump spell equipped, it's a little bit tougher for me. But you can see what the strat is. It's basically bait it out, jump forward and swipe. Bait it out, jump forward and swipe, and it's pretty foolproof. However, occasionally that enemy will throw back-to-back axes, which means like you're gonna get hit. But as long as you have shield spell equipped with them on the screen, you'll be fine. So what you do is, again, you bait it out, jump and hit. Basically, it's like a bit of a waiting game. You don't make the first move on them. These guys, push them against the wall, but those red guys that throw the axes, you wait for them to do something first. They're not as easily manipulated and bullied. So again, we'll here, jump, hit the head, fall back when you need to, and then just keep rinsing and repeating. I think I'm hoping these guys are dropping a blue vial to top me off, which they do. So that way we cast life and grab that, so we're not completely barren for magic. We're almost at the end, believe it or not. Ooh, I think I'm going to employ an interesting strat here. I am. So these guys, if you jump and crouch hit when they're pressed up against, they won't be able to hit you. It's something I actually learned while I was doing my Deathless runs, believe it or not, and we were lucky enough for that enemy to drop a red vial, which they can do from time to time. Same strat, jump, crouch hit. We did get hit there, we were a little sloppy, but not the end of the world. With shield equipped, didn't even take a full health vial, or health square, bar, rectangle, whatever the fuck it is. Alright, we're getting there, guys. Very generous with the drops. However, like I mentioned, if you need the drops, you can keep going back and forth off this screen and farming that blob if you want. Or the bot, excuse me. It'll just take a little while. But believe it or not, guys, we're actually almost out of Death Mountain. So there, since we had a red vial container, we just topped ourselves off and grabbed it. And now we are almost kind of out, in a sense. We gotta go through here, though. So this is what I'm talking about. Wait, bait, hit. Wait, bait, hit. We don't want to be in an enclosed space because we like to jump here. So we walked them back out. All in all, not too bad. Not perfect, but not too bad. Good vial droppage. Those fireballs, you can't block them with your shield, so you have to jump over them. But we're about to get a very important item. Casting shield as always, especially with these clowns. We're going to pull them out to an area where we can jump higher. Make things a little bit easier on ourselves. I wasn't incredibly perfect on this run, but you don't have to be. You know what I mean? Level threshold. Maybe we choose to level up life, which is fine. At this point, I'm not as concerned about, like, focusing on something. So, you know, with, what is it, six more palaces left, 5 of which can give you an insta level up, you know, you're not in dire need anymore. Also, that screen that I just went on with those shooters, I knew that it was pointless. However, I just wanted the little extra experience and, you know, maybe we get a good drop of something, but do not need to do that. You also don't need to come over here, but I'm doing it for the experience. There's also a red vial at the end for my troubles. But realistically, I'm just doing it for a little bit of fun grinding. We get a P bag drop there, which is perfect. 200, can't complain. And there's going to be a red magic vial in here. Same strat for these guys as always. And there, ooh, and we get another P. See what I'm saying? The game rewards you for being ballsy. My goal here wasn't to get that red vial, it was just to continue to get experience. And we got, what was it, an extra... Shoot, I don't even know, what, extra like 40 from that guy and probably an extra 100 from him on his P drop earlier. So now we're going the intended route to the right, using our same strat of jumping and attacking. And he played nice there. Careful, pitfalls, guys. Quick, easy deaths, especially without the fairy spell to bail you out. I try to wait for enemies to jump to their doom, because most of them do, as you saw. There's no point in hurrying through unless you're speedrunning. Put the shield spell on, because now we're enclosed, which you can see I have a little bit of a tougher time. Same strat applies here, it's just a little bit more difficult. And the guy that we've seen a million times over. So same strat here as well. And I believe that the hammer is right at the end. And there it is. So what does the hammer do? The hammer allows us to break blocks on the overworld, and the blocks, more often than not, unveil passageways to items or shortcuts. So we're going to be backtracking out, again being careful in here, going to wait for the enemy to commit suicide, which is now. And do you guys remember that block that was to the left of the hole that I fell in? That's our next goal. We're going to be hammering that and going in there. Where I believe we get another magic container. Which will be good because it'll refill our magic and give us another block. Especially since we're not fully healed right now. See, it's a lot of little things like that. Like if you time your leveling, if you time your magic container grabbing, you know, it almost serves as good as you grinding, right? You'll get your timely replenishments. Alright, so we break that block and we fall down right into a magic container. Let's go. We're full now, baby. And now we have a couple of different options. We're gonna go over here to the right of where Death Mountain was and work our way up the coast in a way. Again, with these guys, remember they jump and shoot, so keep that in mind. Try to make sure when you land next to them that you're standing. This area could be a little tough. If you're not careful here, you could easily die. So here I choose to replenish my life and grab the vial, just because it was there. Give us a little bit more leeway in case we get sloppy as we go along here. This is probably one of those instances where I was like, pausing. Yeah, I definitely paused the game there because I was like, where am I going? I had to look at my map. This is like a troll, there's nothing there, so we're just going to continue on through. And now we've approached the other side, and We got some bridge shenanigans here. General strats apply. I would cast shield if you feel like it, but I am also running a little low on magic, and I remember that the next segment is a little bit tougher than that one. So this one I cast shield because we have not only bubbles, but the annoying red guy that throws axes. Just try to do the same exact strats you do here. Honestly, forget about the bubbles. If you get hit by the bubbles, it is what it is, man. Focus on the red guy first. Alright. Now, we're actually near another town. I might go in there. See, when you're in this area of the game, you have a bunch of different options. There's a bunch of things that you can go grab. You can go to the town. I don't think I go to the town yet, but we'll see. Ultimately, the second palace actually, it's nearby, but it's not over here by the graveyard or anything. These graveyard segments are annoying as fuck. If you could avoid them, just avoid them. I almost die here. That's right. See, I am like shitting my pants. I get hit again. Oh my god, yeah, the run almost came to an end there. I was so upset. Do you guys see how bad the graveyard segments are? At this point, also, I'm shitting myself. That's why I stopped. I'm like, fuck, dude, like, I gotta get across this desert. I have one hit left. If I die, if I get hit, I die. So at this point, I'm crapping myself. I'm like trying to bait out like enemies appearing, but I don't think they do. Yeah, I'm playing my best to avoid here. I'm trying to get to, I do go to town because I want to heal myself. As long as you're on a main road and you encounter an enemy, there won't be an encounter. We escaped by the hair of our chinny chin chin. My run almost ended earlier than the other two runs. Go figure. But we survived. So again, take heed, avoid graveyard encounters when you can. Trust me. So we're just topping off now, getting our magic and our health back in order. There's a couple things to do in this town, but it's a little bit later. We will be returning, that's for sure. Because one of the main things in that town requires us to go over here. Now, I believe that I'm veering off course slightly to go get some more experience and or upgrades. Yes, I am. I'll gladly take this battle as well, but choose just to grab the 20 and continue on. Now with our newfound hammer, we can go in here. Which ultimately, I don't have the world map up on my screen right now. I think that this leads to a heart, but it could be a pea bag. We shall find out. It is a heart, I was correct. Which is also somewhat timely as we were taking some damage there. But as you can see, we're in great shape level-wise and gauge-wise before we even get into Medoro Palace. Like, we're doing the best that we can to minimize the difficulty, basically, early in the game. Just requires a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, a little bit of grinding. So now we're going to enter this cave, which this one I believe is a pea bag. But it also could be medicine. I think I grabbed that already though. I think that, actually no, the medicine container I think is back near what's-his-face's house, Bagu's house. Being very sloppy here, but it's mostly because I have the shield equipped, so why not? I know I'm not in any real danger of dying anytime soon, yeah. We get a pea bag for 200. Helps us out here with our leveling extravaganza. We got about 5 minutes left until I took my first break outside of Medoro Palace, I believe. Yes. Yep. we go to the left here. This is back to the area before Saria Town. Remember the bridge? It's basically a different path that we were able to take since we had the hammer. Now we're gonna go up here and break this block, which hopefully, you know, if you're playing your first time, you wrote that down. I remember I wrote it down. I didn't want to forget about it because I knew at the time there was nothing I could do there. As I believe this area has another magic container at the end. Oh wait, no, this is the medicine. Yeah, so we're gonna be, it looks like a magic container, that's why it confused me. So we're gonna be grabbing a medicine at the end of this, which allows us to get the fairy spell from Mido Town, which was the previous town that I was in. Of course, I could be made a fool, but I'm pretty sure that I always mix up the two in this segment. There, we leveled up and did our magic, which is fine. Because the vials and sprites look almost the same. Not much to say here about these guys. Make sure you kill them. There's a pitfall over here. The last thing you want to do is jump over them and then get hit and fall in, right? Yeah, so you can see it's slightly different looking. The shape of the bottle's different. But this is medicine, which again allows us to get the fairy spell because a woman was looking for medicine back in Mido Town. Mido Town's actually pretty important because we get the fairy spell, which is obviously needed to beat the game and could also save you from certain death once in a while. Oh, we got a pea bag drop there, so we're just eating some damage to go grab some extra experience. But Mido Town also offers the downward thrust, which is going to be one of the most used, it's going to be one of the most used techniques, attacks, whatever you want to call it, throughout the rest of the game. Especially in areas where you're just trying to get through quickly, have the downward thrust out, gives yourself a little bit of iframes, you may or may not kill things with it too. You get some experience, it's good all around. So we're going to be backtracking now, like I said, to go back to Mido Town, just following the road. Again, if you encounter enemies on the road, they will not be battles. And then as you can see, enemies aren't even spawning, so we get very close to town, of course. So just doing our usual topping off. I gotta admit, I'm not used to talking this long. My throat's freaking sore. And I still got like 3.5 more hours, or 2.5 more hours to do after this. Topping off our life in magic before giving the medicine to the lady. Which actually, no, we're getting the downward thrust first. If you jump up, you have to cast a jump spell, and jump up into the almost church-looking building there, and head in. You find a warrior, and there's 2 of these warriors throughout the game. One teaches you the downward thrust, which is this guy, and the other one teaches you the upward thrust, which is also very important, especially in the end game. So this reminds me of like Scrooge McDuck, DuckTales. You can kind of bounce off of enemies and stuff too. And the last thing to do in this town, like I mentioned, is giving the medicine to the lady in order to go get the fairy spell. This lady was the one looking for the medicine. Same old thing. Walk all the way to the right, go down to a underworld Mario looking area, right? And then good pals, the wizards. This word will give you power, which ends up being fairy. Kind of interesting, right? Wouldn't you think this word will give you power means something like, I don't know, like a attack boost? No, you turn into a fairy, which means you could kind of skate through tough areas, or you can reach high, you know, beyond jump areas, or there's a certain palace where you need to activate fairy as you're falling in order to fly through. So now we're going to head to Medoro Palace in the Swamplands. We're actually going to be taking our first break, which is again noted on the screen, so I gotta be sure that I cut my voiceover soon at 105.36. These little... Oh yeah, I forgot there's a red vial there. We don't need it, but these little areas provide as basically roads, right? Where if you're not trying to encounter anything, go to those safe zones. They will not follow you. Well, they will follow you in there, but you won't encounter anything. A couple of those on the way here to Medoro Palace. We're almost there. We're gonna try to get to that last vacant block before we stop and gear up our minds before heading into the second palace of the game, Medoro Palace, which we will do that very, very shortly. Alright, now we're entering Medoro Palace, and this is where we're going to start with some shenanigans by hitting those statues that appear at the beginning of the palace. As I mentioned, they have the ability to drop red potions or, in some instances, the red Iron Knuckle enemies, either of which are actually good because, like I said, you can get experience from them, or you can get full magic replenishment. So what are the main goals of the Medoro Palace? Well, there's two of them, obviously. One, you gotta grab an item, right? It's pretty much par for the course. And you have to defeat a boss, and then you can place another crystal. In this particular palace, we're gonna be grabbing the Power Glove, which is, we're gonna be headed there first. And then the boss's helmet head, which is kind of an interesting design. You'll see that later. But continuing through here, again, guys, with the Hammerhead Bros, you wait for that moment to enter. Got a little impatient there, apparently. But you have a moment to enter, and then most of the time you can just kind of push them against the wall. Not too big of a deal. Then we grab our key. Keys are obviously very important, because until the end of the game, we do not have a magic key, and you can't progress through the palaces without a key. Alright, so continuing on here. Obviously the blue enemies have the propensity to drop the blue vials, so occasionally we will just try to grab those, and we kind of got lucky. We got P, which is always good, because ultimately at the end of the day, you know, leveling up is probably the most important thing, even over the vials. Gonna cast Shield here, because those guys, I have a tough time dealing with them. They're very similar to the red ones that shoot projectiles, except they move forward and they jump. Their movement pattern's slightly different, and it kind of messes me up a lot, for being honest. And then since we have the downward thrust, it's actually a little bit easier to farm these guys now. You can do a continuous bounce on top of them if you line it up perfectly. Or you could try what I'm doing, which isn't working very well, but if you're better at it than I am, it works. So if you continuously press down, you end up like swiping each time. Like it counts as a hit. Where if you're just bouncing up and down, it technically takes longer. But if you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, which is messing it up over and over again, then clearly the smarter way to do it is just to get in the straight bounce pattern where you hold down. So standard skeleton enemies, you basically just kind of duck and hit, slide in, duck and hit, rinse and repeat. Nothing crazy. Got a little lucky there. I don't know if, like I said, I'm not like an expert on this game, so I don't know if that was a destined red vial drop. But we got it, so that's good, right? And I apologize if you guys hear any stomping. I'm trying to get these voiceovers done when I can, and morning time, cats are running around, you know how it be. So this is what I was talking about. If you do the straight pogo bounce, if you will, it's a lot easier. Takes a while. And you can kind of see where I was coming from with the, you know, if you do the multiple stab down motion, technically you can kill them quicker, but you gotta be better at it than I am. Otherwise, this is kind of foolproof. I find that typically, when I end up getting in the right pattern, I'm sort of to the left or to the right of these enemies. I'm usually not dead center. I don't know if that really plays much into it, but just works for me, so works for you too, I'm sure. So clearly we're doing a little bit of grinding here. I'll be honest with you, I'm not quite sure if I grind all the way up to 1500. I'm hoping I don't. But I did mention to you guys that grinding is a big part of this playthrough, so we will see. Looks like I move on. Probably because, I mean, like, there's a lot of ways to get experience in these dungeons other than, you know, grinding on the same enemies over and over and over. That's more of an early game grind thing. I do use them here and there throughout, but it's just easier almost to organically level up. Also, if you leave the palace completely, which I end up doing a lot for red vial statue farming, the main enemies respawn anyway, so you could technically grind that way if you want. It's probably a little bit more risky as far as dying, but a little bit more entertaining, right? Those horsehead enemies, or whatever they are, they offer up 20 experience apiece, as you saw, and they're actually throughout the game. They come in different colors. They're actually not that bad once you kind of get their pattern down and you do the same strat that I was doing on those floating skull enemies. I mean, it's pretty easy to not only farm them for experience, but also for vials, which we definitely do later in the game when we're in need of vials, especially in the last palace. There, I choose to shoot my projectile and or wait the enemies out. They do have a propensity to jump into the lava, but sometimes they don't. Where I had a full health, might as well do it, right? This is a little tricky here, be careful. I kind of do like a little jump. I don't really jump too high because I don't want to get hit by that thing. I've seen people equip jump through that room to be safe. I don't recommend it. If you're not trying to die, I don't recommend it because it makes that jump even harder by the ceiling, what is it, bot dispenser, if you will, because they could drop blue bots. We're just gonna avoid, oh no, we're not gonna avoid. I typically say to avoid these things, honestly, but it looks like I got it in a good pattern. If you feel comfortable enough to get these things in a good pattern, go for it. But otherwise, meh, they move way too fast for me. Who knows, maybe my skills have leveled up. And we're gonna take this guy as well, just because it's on the way. And you guys see those statue heads to the right? Oftentimes in later palaces, those statue heads will drop magic vials, so keep that in mind as you continue on through the game. My favorite enemies, right? These guys. Most of the time, as you can see, those guys lead to dead ends. I don't know if that's like intended by the developers, but I feel like that's the case most of the time. Lots of dead ends associated with those enemies, so the only reason I went over there simply was to get the experience. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. That is not the actual way to go, clearly. This is the way to go. Yes, one of our first instances of the block falling room. So I was trying to get the P bag there. We don't have the Power Glove yet, which is what we're going to get here. The Power Glove allows us to smash through these types of obstacles, if you will. Getting hit a little bit, so that's why I casted Shield. Again, always cast Shield when you can. It'll minimize and mitigate your damage, especially if you're not totally familiar with what's upcoming. Again, we're going to cast Shield when we go in here. Ooh, we get a lucky drop there, but we're going to focus our attention on the red Iron Knuckle for a smooth 100 points, followed up with a P-Bag. So now we're very, very close to hitting our next level threshold. We're going to hit it after killing this guy. Same strats as always, basically for all of them. The only one that's a little different is the blue one that throws the daggers. Those guys are a little tougher than the orange ones, but they have the same general strategy of just kind of jump, hit the head. If you want to be safe, you could back off, but the further I got along with my runs, I was able to just kind of pressure them, if you will, meaning holding forward into them as I do it. Because you kind of get like a little bit of a bounce back. Oh, that's right, yeah, duh, I didn't even notice that. We didn't get the level up because he dropped the red vial, so those enemies obviously drop red vials from time to time, which is how we farm them outside of certain palaces. We didn't really need that, in my opinion. I would have rathered the experience, but it is what it is, because we always have the floating skull enemies if we need other enemies to level up. Now these guys are really annoying until you get the upward thrust and higher attack power. I just typically avoid them unless they come right into my wheelhouse. But when you get the upward thrust and like level 7, level 8 attack power, they're super easy. Otherwise, they are a pest. And here we got the orange Iron Knuckle, same strat as always. And what do we do? What do we do? Do we level up or do we skip? we're thinking about it. I think I should, yeah, I was gonna say, I think I should level up there. It's kind of fun actually doing these voiceovers when I don't remember what I do. I mean, I could, you know, sit down and come up with a science for all these, especially these longer runs, but goddamn, guys, I got more stuff to do. I can't sit here and watch my 4-hour runs and then do a 4-hour voiceover. I don't make any money, man, so until I do, I ain't going that extra mile. So these rooms are kind of annoying. The enemies are easy, it's those statues. I never really came up with a good way of getting through consistently. Luckily they don't do too much damage, obviously, as you can see. And your shield does block them, but it's kind of difficult to kind of time it to go through without hitting, at least I find. I'm sure people that are better at the game than me are able to get through there easy peasy, blocking the projectiles with their shield, but you know what? I can't. It is what it is. Alright, we got our red hammer bros. What are they throwing? Are those maces, by the way? They look like maces, don't they? Same strat, find your entry, push them against the wall, pressure them, grab the key. As I said, sometimes the statue heads, but also those things, will drop red vials or red iron knuckles, so I was hitting it, because again, I'm not sure, guys. Don't have this game down to a science, so I keep a lot of general strats in mind, which is good enough to get you through the game, which basically could help you as well. I went back to try to get a blue vial, and I ended up getting a pea bag, which is, I guess fine, although at this point, the 2,000 threshold being where we kind of are in this palace, I'm probably not going to be able to level up without placing a crystal. We'll see though. As you can see, farming for single blue enemies can be quite annoying, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And you're seeing great instances of, there we go, the Elgato being bad with to black transitions. I actually first noticed this when I did my Zelda playthrough, Zelda 1. It just doesn't like transitioning to black for some reason. It'll kind of grab random artifacts. I don't know why, but who cares? At the end of the day, it's not like affecting the gameplay or anything. Just a minor inconvenience aesthetically. So this is a little tough there. I was waiting for my opening because we wanted to take care of the blue bot as he can lunge from time to time. There we fill up our life and grab the vial, because why not? And here, I'm not gonna grab that, yeah. I don't need to grab that. If I was closer to leveling up, I certainly would. You have plenty of time. It's very similar to the first palace where the bridge is falling. Pretty much if you just fall down and swipe it and just immediately start moving to the right, you'll be fine. The only way you're gonna fall in there is if you stay on the tile for like literally like 2 seconds or something. More of the same enemies, guys. The iron knuckles, you jump and hit the head. The skeletons, you do the kind of like low sort of slide hit. And here we go, we got the orange into the red. Same old, same old. It's unfortunate that we don't really need the experience right now. Yeah, that was me. Did a little pause there. I was like, should I go back and grind? But then ultimately I decided not to. Boss time, guys, so we're gonna top off. And what you have to do is you have to hit the helmet off a couple times, and then it reveals the real head. Kind of creepy looking. And as is the case with most enemies, the head is the weak spot. Since we have shield equipped and we're at life level 6, we're not really too worried about eating damage. You can see the old helmets. I think this guy's name is Helmet Head, right? Yeah, it's Helmet Head. The old helmets shoot projectiles. Just don't worry about it. Just focus on him. Not a big deal. And here, we're gonna place the crystal, and I'm gonna see if we're gonna level up or not, or if we're gonna skip. We might skip here. Oh no, never mind, it was attack. I had them mixed up. I thought maybe attack was 2,500. Absolutely never skip attack. Just get that done every single time. Alright, so now we're gonna travel from Medoro to the Island Palace. Working our way back to the east here. Ultimately, we need to go back to the graveyard area, and we have to fall down into a kind of a trap tile, if you will. And we have to use the fairy spell to actually escape. And then we get access to the Island Palace, which ultimately gives us the raft, which allows us to raft over to Eastern Hyrule from Mido Town. You walk straight through, lined up with this, which is a... I don't know if you need to do this, but I just do it anyway. This is the King's Tomb. Apparently in the Famicom Disk System version, it's way more illustrious. But if you line yourself up with the King's Tomb and just walk straight down, eventually you will reach this. And you have to get up and to the right. I think if you go to the left, you could probably leave, but you want to go this way. So you have to cast the fairy spell in order to fly up, because jump cannot reach. And eventually we're going to be working our way over to the Island Palace. Just have to deal with some minor cave screens here, nothing crazy. Boomerang guys of the blue variety, so definitely super duper easy at this point. 2 hits, I believe, at attack level 5. Not a big deal. And now we are on the way to the Island Palace, again, where we're going to collect the raft and obviously fight another boss and place another crystal. Kind of looking at my notes here. This is a very, very intensive voiceover. And I like, you know, gotta be upfront with you guys with it, you know what I mean? It's not a totally professional experience here, so. Now, this is where we're gonna do more Vile and potentially experience farming, but I don't think right away. This is a tough palace. Now, in my opinion, this is the first quote-unquote tough palace. It's actually really short. In comparison to some of the other ones, it's probably one of the shorter, if not the shortest one in the game, maybe outside of Parappa. Wow. I totally forgot about how horrible I started here. Goodness gracious. So we're probably going to leave right away to go grab... Yeah, we're going to leave. That was really bad, guys. Whatever you do, don't play like I did there. That was borderline embarrassing, to be honest with you. But anyways, this is actually a good opportunity to discuss this, right? Don't be afraid to do what I'm doing. Leave the palace, go back in, farm for vials. And if you get the Iron Knuckle spawn, just leave and go back. If you don't feel comfortable fighting him, of course. So there we are, we're topped off. Looks like I feel like I do this once for no reason. I don't know why I do this. I think I just wanted a little extra experience. Oh, are we grinding? We grinding now. Okay, okay. And, I find that more often than not when I'm grinding these guys, I do get hit by them because I get really sloppy, but obviously, as you could assume, if they drop red vials from time to time, doesn't really matter if I'm getting hit. You can just kind of go back and forth off the screen and farm as needed. But yeah, it looks like I'm taking the opportunity to either grind to the next level or grind way further in order to set myself up for an organic level through this palace. But that is remains to be seen. So many different runs, so many different grinds, so many different palaces. It's hard for me to remember. And that was a perfect example of me telling you guys how I typically get hit when I do this. The first 2 were outliers. But obviously, if you keep getting drops like this, just cast life, grab it, so on and so forth. And you'll be topped off. I feel like every time you want the red Iron Knuckles, it never happens, right? Here we're getting a bunch of vials in a row, which is super annoying. These are obviously, other than bouncing on the bouncing and swiping at these skull enemies that are floating that respawn in the palaces. This is definitely the most boring part of the runs. But you know what, guys? It's necessary. When you can get full magic vials, full heals, and 100 experience a pop, of course. They keep dropping fucking vials when I want experience, but it's a no-brainer, you know? It really doesn't take that long. Like, even a 2,200 level, it takes 22 of them. Just them. Let alone, you know, if you reach a certain point, you just go through the palace organically, where you're gonna easily get 1,000 plus experience in there, you know, even without key bags. Alright, that's what I thought I was doing, just kind of putting myself in a better spot, because we also know that we're going to be coming back out again to top off our magic in our life. And why are we doing that? I mean, it goes without saying, but I feel the need to tell you. First of all, if we're scrubbing it... Oh my god, dude. I am having a hell of a time in this room. Now, don't get me wrong, those blue guys are really freaking annoying. They're up there with the blue Iron Knuckles and the endgame enemies. But it looks like I push forward here, and I just say screw it. despite the horrible room. But yeah, we just want to be super duper careful. Like, if we have an opportunity to ensure that we don't die and make our life really, really easy, then you bet we're gonna fucking do it. There's like no question about that. So this room, I find as long as you keep moving, and I don't know why, but every time I jump twice into those blocks up ahead of me, I feel like I never get hit by the falling blocks. I don't know if that's a coincidence or it's just a superstition or what, but I always do it. And then I'm telling you, there was like one or two times I went through where I didn't do that kind of pattern, and I got hit, so who knows. With these guys, I don't even know what to say for them. The higher your attack is, the easier they get, obviously. I find that it's best to avoid them when possible. So the Scrooge McDuck downward thrust seems to work the best, but I've been doing a piss poor job through here to this point. We're gonna grind these guys here in hopes that they drop a vial, and that way I actually don't have to leave anytime soon. And again, at the very least, we get 100 experience, right? Ooh, P bag drop. I will gladly take that. It's also putting me in a kind of a weird spot now where I'm like, shit, I should probably leave, right? Because then I could just grind up my level. You know, it's not, speed isn't the name of the game here. It's getting through the game without dying. And having full magic, full health, and higher levels is easier to do that, right? These guys have the red guys always have the opportunity to drop a red vial, so keep that in mind. But ultimately you have to go out here. Luckily we get some more iron knuckles, which will either give us 100 or a red vial. Same strat, just different colors. And we get a P bag drop, which isn't bad. 200 experience. I will gladly take that any day of the week. Continuing on here after grabbing the key outside. Oh, these guys are so annoying. They have an easy pattern, but if you get thrown off slightly, then they end up getting different patterns. So they just go up and down and shoot projectiles, but occasionally, if you're really sloppy, if you get hit by stuff, if you're really slow, almost every one of those head enemies will be on a different cycle, and it makes things super annoying. So there we grabbed another key and had another iron knuckle. What I like to do there is try to get over as quickly as possible. We do not want to be on that ledge, just in case the iron knuckle decides to come over and ruin our day. Pitfalls are the worst, guys. They were my biggest fear going into this no-death run. I was very confident that I would not die, you know, much if at all, to regular enemies or bosses. It was always the pitfalls and things knocking me into pitfalls. We're about to level up, which is great. Casting shield because we have the most annoying enemies in the game here. God, I hate these guys. I mean, the strat is obvious, jump and hit the head, but they have a shield which can prevent you from hitting them sometimes. They throw high and low daggers which can be blocked by your shield. We almost died there. Honestly, guys, I don't have a great strat for them. It requires some pretty fast twitch reflexes in regards to how they are throwing their daggers, and I typically just avoid, I don't even block low, because I don't have that, I'm trying to focus on attacking them, right? So, with those enemies, obviously, you gotta kill them. So I'm always trying to attack. If I was doing a straight defensive, sure, I'd probably block them all the time, but it's really hard to balance attack and defense against them, and you know, just try your best to get through. I just keep jumping and keep hitting. Ultimately, I feel like DPS prevails. If you have shield equipped, great. If you need to cast life afterwards, it is what it is. There's always ways that you could farm. So I think, not positive, but I think possibly after, yeah, here we go. I got hit once and everything kind of throws you off. You got guys spawning in front of you, behind you, yeah. These guys can get super annoying. They don't do a super crazy amount of damage by any means, but goddamn, they're annoying. Just keep moving. The more you get caught up in these games, in Zelda 2, it's like, it's rough, bro. I'm telling you. So that statue head there had a red vial, which is very, very important, because we're getting pelted over here. Much like the Wizrobes and the Magos, it's just better to keep moving. As soon as you get hit and you get caught up, stuff like that happens all the time. Same old strat there for the Iron Knuckle. We're going to continue on to the left here for another Iron Knuckle. Wouldn't mind if you dropped a vial, but you didn't. It's fine. And for this room, I like to equip shield and jump. There's a few of these rooms in various palaces throughout the game where you have to grab a shield or a power-up item or something like that. Here, it's a key. I said shield, I meant key. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Casted shield. But casting jump allows you to get out really easy, and I find the best way to get down there is to break the blocks that are kind of to the right of whatever item it is you're picking up. That way, it's not straight down, and you kind of build like a natural stairwell. And then with jump equipped, you have to do less block breaking in order to get out. There you saw a little blip because I was like, am I supposed to go down here? But I think I went down here possibly because I knew that some of these enemies could drop vials. But something tells me that I'm probably gonna end up leaving. Yeah. So I believe we're gonna be retreating back out to the start of the palace. But anyways, we're doing, you know, what I said, where we're trying to go back out, refill our magic, refill our life. As you guys saw, you could make really tricky jumps in this game that appear like you can't make them, even without jump equipped. Where if you do a running jump, basically, you saw me get up onto that one ledge, which looks like you definitely couldn't get up without the jump ability, but that's incorrect. You can. And I will admit that I learned that from Mike Matei, of former Cinemassacre fame. Now he streams or whatever on his own. But I watched his No Death attempt stream VOD, and I noticed after he fell down that he did that. I always thought that you were basically stuck unless you cast jump, but that is incorrect. Being very sloppy through here, knowing that I have my vials coming up soon, but honestly, be a little bit better than I am there. Take your time. Alright, we got about, looks like maybe like 8 or 9 minutes left in this palace. According to my little notes, I did start writing some notes, so the voiceover is not terrible. All we did, guys, as I said, head back out. We go off the screen. For a second I thought I didn't get the statue on the way in, but I always do. So we're gonna grab that, heal up, and at this point we just want another vial. If we get an Iron Knuckle, we might kill it, because remember they do have the ability to drop the vials. The experience is kind of pointless at this point, even that. Just because we're so far away, unless I choose to grind, I hope I don't. I don't think I do. Looking at the time, well actually you know what, maybe even looking at the time codes, it's possible I do grind. Oh boy, do I end up falling for it? I might. And you know why I might? Because I probably want to get the next threshold for attack when I place the crystal, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, plus we keep getting red Iron Knuckles at this point, so it's almost organic, right? Like we're trying to top off our life and our magic, but we can't. I could keep leaving the screen and stuff, but I'm just gonna take what's given to me. Cast life again. Back in again. Yeah, I almost feel like the game was serving me up so many red Iron Knuckles here that it's like, I might as well grind. I probably do now, looking at the timestamps. Yup. We are now fully healed, but we still going. Because I figure, fuck it, we're so close, why not? So more riveting, grinding action for you guys. Really nothing new to add. Replenish when you can. Kill the enemies as quickly as possible. Rinse and repeat. I'm actually gonna mute my mic for a bit, because literally this is all I'm doing. And, My cat Belmont's running around like an idiot. I'm sure you hear him stamping right now, so I'm gonna mute myself for a bit. You know, sometimes I wonder, how do YouTubers and famous streamers that have, like, idiot cats like I do, how do they function, you know? I don't know about you guys, but every time I try to do something, my cats will be sleeping I feel like this is a meme, right? My cats will be sleeping all day, or all night. Then as soon as I sit down and start doing something, it's like, alright, it's freak mode, freak-a-leak mode engaged. Anyway, felt like it was probably a good idea to pop back in now at this point. I don't think the zoomies are out of him yet, but I'm sure you guys were getting a little bit bored of just watching me grind the statue over and over and over, but we're close now. We just need 4 more statues, or maybe if we get lucky with a P-drop, we could speed things up slightly. But, you know, this is, again, a perfect example of just taking your time and taking what the game gives you. If I could level up really easily, I will. You know, this is very minimal effort. It just took me, what, a couple minutes? Boring, sure. I can't dispute that. But, it is what it is. And it's funny because I remember a little while ago looking at the timestamps and I'm like, oh, we got like 8 minutes left, and I was thinking to myself, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. How would we have 8 minutes? Well, grinding, that's how. So we're definitely gonna hit the threshold here. And like I said, I think I didn't pick up the raft. I think this is the one place where after I beat the boss, I have to go back in and grab the raft. If I did grab the raft though, it's because I'm scatterbrained. Oh my god. Yes, I remember this too. It's like we're so close to leveling up and then all of a sudden it drops like 1,000,000 vials in a row. I'm like, okay, are you good? Finally, we level up. Grab that life, and next, the threshold is attack, which is perfect, exactly what we wanted, where now we can go beat the boss and level up our attack, which is perfect. And the Island Palace boss, it has a name, and it's escaping me at the moment. I really don't feel like digging through a bunch of files on my computer, but basically what it is pretty much just a iron knuckle. It's the blue one, the really annoying one, and it's riding a horse. Now, the horse phase isn't too bad, it's the one after it, but, you know, the further along you go and the stronger you get, those enemies get a little bit easier. You actually encounter this boss, I believe twice in the final palace, but by then you pretty much kill it and like you pretty much like knock it off the horse. Is it the final palace or the hidden palace? I don't know. You encounter them later on. I can't remember. But you pretty much knock them off the horse at that point in one hit, and then they take 2 hits and they die. So it's you know, at that point it's basically a regular enemy with boss music. Pretty much at this point all we're doing, guys, is we're just kind of backtracking to where we were. Remember we reached that one point where I was kind of low on either health or magic, and there was one of those blue annoying guys. The experience matters not at this point. Literally the only thing that we would even want from any enemies are drops for magic replenishment. See, I end up not even grabbing the P bag. It's really not even worth it. There's no point. We're gonna take the attack level up, so unless randomly those P bags drop like 2,000 or 3,000 experience, it ain't even worth it. Alright, now we're back to this room, which is ultimately where we kind of stalled earlier. I hate these guys, especially when they're in an enclosed area and it's harder to get the Scrooge McDuck off. All I was doing at that point was just trying to kind of stand at attention, so to speak, and just keep wailing away at him. Really not much I could do there, but I knew that I had a red vial, so I was able to eat a lot of damage. Now this room sucks. I don't know how else to explain it. So you ultimately have to go down here, and you have to kill the red iron knuckle and continue to the right, but the blue guy can throw daggers at you from off screen, which you saw I got hit. And hitting the iron knuckle in the enclosed area is a lot harder than a higher area to jump, if you will. I just try to maintain my composure. You can still sneak the head hits in. You could also hit low. If you keep spamming, eventually you'll keep pushing him back, and you'll get through his defenses once in a while. But now we have the aforementioned blue iron knuckle horse boss, where you have to knock him off of his horse, and then it turns into one of those blue iron knuckle dagger enemies, basically. So the strat is going to be the same for that form. For this form, you just kind of downward thrust on him as he comes through. As usual, I like to have my shield equipped, and we're in a good place life-wise and magic-wise, so I'm not really concerned at all. Here we go, same strats. It's literally the same enemy. It just has a boss bar at this point. Those enemies are so bad that they're literally bosses. Can't stand them. We're not exactly doing well here, but at all. Oh no! Oh my god, this is one of the worst performances I ever had, but luckily we had enough magic to get our life back. I actually find that when you have the jump spell equipped, those guys are a little bit easier to hit, but for some reason I was just struggling hard. And now, we're going to be able to level up our attack to level 6, which is great! Who doesn't like that? Alright, and our attack is up to level 6, and we are going to continue on. Alright, now our main goal, basically, is to use the raft that we just got from the Island Palace to head over to Eastern Hyrule. I gotta admit, guys, doing this long voiceover has been rough. This is my third segment. I've had no time like James Rolfe for the last few days, but basically, we're just gonna backtrack a bit. I may or may not grind a little bit more, but as you guys can see, we're getting close to maxing out our levels. You know, we only have 2 left for magic and attack and 1 for life. And still a decent amount of palaces to go, which means free levels. So the grinding's, somewhat minimal in a sense. Other than, of course, statue grinding outside of palaces, which will never cease, right? So I kind of just went through there to kind of reset the enemies since I knew that I wasn't going to get a spawn. But now we're just gonna apparently stop off at, is it Mido Town? The old top off, right? Again, like I said, patience is key, and if that requires you topping off or grinding for things, then go ahead and do it, you know what I mean? But now, we are on the new continent, which ultimately is where we're gonna spend, like, all of our time now. Not a huge fan of these encounters. I don't really Don't care for them too much. We're going here. Oh, I hate these guys too, by the way. I don't really know how to manipulate them. They seem like they open their eyes more when you stare at them, and when you... They're like similar to the, what are they, Boo from Mario. They operate a little different though, because the Boo from Mario, like, instantly stops and goes depending on which direction you're facing. But these guys hit really hard. However, I think they give 20 experience each, right? Yeah. So we went there for the P bag, because again, you know, we're trying to max out. Ideally, we'd love to be maxed out by the Hidden Palace, which is the second to last palace in the game. But now, we're gonna head into Nabooru Town. We have to do a couple things here. We have to grab some water from a fountain, and then we have to give a woman the water, and then we learn the fire spell, which allows us to kill those weird enemies, like the ones that jump, that are like blue. We just saw them a few encounters ago. So here is the fountain that we grabbed the water from. The red dress lady in this town here is ultimately the one that gets us to where we need to be. I don't think... Do you need the fire spell? I feel like you don't, right? But obviously you can't kill some enemies without it, so... But, like, you don't need the fire spell for any of the bosses or anything like that. Still good to get, you know? Especially if you're a completionist. But, now that we have the fire spell, we're going to be doing a bunch of Maze Island shenanigans. So essentially... the Maze Island is broken up into a few parts, kind of. First, we're going to be grabbing a kidnapped child from the maze, and then we're going to be taking that child to Darunia Town, where we will be getting a spell, I believe, because of that, and then another, the upward thrust technique. But I believe that the kidnapped child comes from... or gives you the spell. So we went into the cave south of Nabooru. Dealing with these new enemies with our new fire spell. New across the board, right? Along with those weird jumpers, there's like these, I don't even know what the hell they are. Again, I don't have the manual in front of me, but they're very odd looking. I'll show you when we see them. There are other enemies that can't be attacked without fire. So you would have thought that those guys would be fireable, if you will, but you actually have to swipe their eye. I hate these enemies. I do not know how to manipulate them into being vulnerable. It seems to be very random, and I hate getting close to them. But looks like we're going in at this point, trying to get that experience. We grabbed the 500-point P bag, which puts us close to 1K already, so we're kind of on our way to another level. Yeah, 150 is pretty good. Although, is it really worth the time? I don't know. It's one of those things where it's kind of like, you know, like I said, I committed to it already, so why not? The best grind spots of the game are on this continent. There is a particular segment that I think I mentioned before where you can get an easy, I think 310. There's 4 enemies. Super duper easy to kill as long as you get the pattern down. And that is the best and quickest and honestly most satisfying grind because it revolves around the downward thrust, which I'm a big fan of. So you see a little hesitation there. That's like I said, that's me not knowing where the fuck I'm going. Because I'm not an expert at this game, so I was probably plotting something out either in my head or looking at a map. Yeah, and ultimately I decided to go down here. Excuse me. See if we could pick some experience up along the way. These screens aren't that bad either, honestly, because basically you could downward thrust on them the whole time. So if you're looking for, you know, somewhat easy experience. The only thing that stinks is it takes a little while, but beyond that, it's pretty easy. And we came over here for another P bag, give us another cool 500. We are very dedicated to leveling up at this point. Is what we got: the Maze Palace, the Ocean Palace, and the Hidden Palace. So we have 3 automatic levels still, which is great. So what? All we need to do is level up 2 more times organically, and then technically we could just level up through palaces. But like I said, I'm pretty sure that I tried to get to the Hidden Palace already maxed out. I might throw caution to the wind in this run though. I remember getting a little impatient, which is why at times this run's a little bit sloppier than some of my failed runs even were a little bit, I guess, more precise. But ultimately I died, so I guess it's not better. But as mentioned earlier, pretty easy grind segment on these things. It could just take a little while because those enemies disappear into the sand, but why not? We'll do it as we go along. Organic grinding 101. Not a fan of this encounter either. I can't stand flying enemies. So we just book it on out. Now we're gonna head back to town, presumably to top off before heading north towards the maze. So other than the little child in the maze, there's also a magic container. And of course, a bunch of trap tiles with random encounter segments. And we try to take the path of least resistance through there, but in order to get there, you have to go through cave segment and a brief segment once you get out of the cave as well. And there will be a town to the west, which I believe is Darunia Town. I mentioned that earlier. But we don't necessarily want to go there. That's the other enemy, by the way, that you have to kill with fire. That other weird blue crawling thing. It's best to go to Darunia Town with the child who is in the maze, as mentioned. And here's the maze, so pretty much just follow my routing through here, guys. Otherwise, you're gonna end up hitting some encounters that you don't want. So this spot right here is ultimately where the child is. Some tough enemies in here. These guys don't like them that much. I think, though, these are the guys, they give you 150. Is that correct? Oh, drop the P bag. I think those were the guys that we really enjoy grinding in the favorite grind spot session that I was mentioning earlier. There's the little boy. You just pick him up over your head. Classic Zelda style. I believe before we go back to Darunia Town that I'm probably going to pick up the magic container since I'm already here. But we'll see. Like I mentioned before, we went into get the little boy. Just follow my routing. It will be the path of least resistance because there are trap tiles littered all around the Maze Palace. Unfortunately, a few of them you can't avoid, so... And there we are. Grab the magic container. So at this point... unless I feel like grinding, we're going to be heading back to Darunia Town, because at this point, really the only other thing we could do is head into the palace, which we see over there, off-screen to the east. And we are niftily avoiding trap tiles. You do have to do a few of them, especially, obviously, if you're getting, like, the magic container and the boy. But otherwise, it's not too bad through there, if you know where you're going. And we are trying to get some experience here. These guys are definitely a lot easier when you can kill them with one downward thrust, of course, but we are not at that attack level yet. I think it's possibly 7, but obviously definitely 8. 6, you have to hit them twice, which could be annoying, because they're not vulnerable all the time. Decent magic drop there, of course. And we're not that far away from leveling up. Alright, so as mentioned earlier, Darunia Town is over to the west. I believe there are some trap tiles on the way over as well. We're just gonna nope our way out of here, because, you know, again, I hate to fire enemies. I hate having to cast spells in order to kill things, you know what I mean? It's kind of annoying. We're gonna do some manipulation strats here. trying to get some enemies on the trap tile. If I remember correctly, I think I have problems manipulating here. Oh no, did I get it? Yeah, I did get it. So I was able to manipulate the random encounter, and we're doing the same thing here. As you guys see, we pause and unpause, and we wait for the enemies to either be on the tile or walk with us onto the tile. And most of the time that we do this is for the really, really annoying traps that have pitfalls. You know, we'd rather just fight enemies or run away from enemies and avoid pitfalls at all costs, because pitfalls are the #1 killers of runs. And now here we are in Darunia Town, walking into the wrong house, as always, because your boy doesn't know this game inside and out. I think I was probably talking to her thinking she was the healer, but I should know better. Because the healer doesn't carry things on her head, right? Anyway, we cast jump and we jump onto the roof, and ultimately fall down through the chimney of this house, which was previously locked. And now, we're gonna be getting the final, like, attack technique, which is the upward thrust. So pretty much it's the same thing as the downward thrust, except you could jump up and stab it in the air, and this comes into play in a few different areas, namely flying enemies, those weird, like, ghost things that drop fireballs, especially when your attack level's higher. It's a lot easier to mess them up with this technique. There's also some annoying, you know, those horse head enemies that shoot projectiles. Sometimes they're going to be above you. I feel like the downward thrust is ultimately better, but it's still a good technique to have. And now we're returning the little boy for the reflect spell, which actually, I don't use that often. It reflects magic spells and stuff. But the main use for it is, I think it's the boss of the Maze Palace. Is it Karak? Karak, let's Google Karak here. Yes, Karak is a mage boss, and if you cast a reflect spell and kind of sit in the corner of the room, the fight's pretty easy. You can still get hit. It's got Dracula vibes from Castlevania 1, where it could spawn on top of you, basically, and hurt you. Otherwise, you just kind of sit there and keep reflecting spells back upon it. But now we got everything that we needed in Darunia Town. We already got the magic container from the maze, excuse me. So we're going to be heading back to the maze and then ultimately to the Maze Palace. And aside from killing Karak and depositing the crystal, what is our main goal of the Maze Palace? It is to get the boots, and the boots allow you to walk on water, which is pretty nifty. You can take a few shortcuts here and there, but ultimately it allows you to go to the Ocean Palace, which is where we're going to be heading after the Maze Palace, which I had mentioned earlier was the site of one of my run killers. So here, we weren't as lucky with the manipulating RNG, and I probably got lazy and just wanted to go through, so we cast Fairy, which, again, is a very, very good way to get through pitfall areas, because the Fairy, to my knowledge, can't get knocked down. Obviously, you can get killed as the Fairy, but as long as you just stay to the top of the screen, you shouldn't have any pitfall issues. And, yeah, I mean, obviously we used a lot of magic to do that, but if the goal is to not die, you're probably better off just casting that and being safe, you know? So now let's see, do I head back to town? Yes, I do. I play the safe strat, so I could have kind of sacked up, so to speak, and gone through the maze, hoped for some magic vial drops, so on and so forth. But it looks like I choose to go back to Nabooru Town, down below through the caves, to top off my magic and my heals before setting course back to the maze itself. Plus, you know, like I said, I gotta get a couple more levels anyway. Doesn't hurt to kill a few things, you know? So we're probably gonna end up just doing... Yeah, we're gonna wait for her to come out. We're gonna heal ourselves and then just refill our magic again. That's a good strat, by the way. Potentially save yourself a little bit of time if the healer and magic people aren't on the same screen. You can simply just heal yourself with the life spell when you have it and wait for them to come back out. And everything will be a-okay. Alright, so now we're heading back to the maze. Gonna try to kill some enemies along the way. Never been a huge fan of the red demon guys. Feel like they always end up hitting me. I've never been great with them. I'm not really good at the enemies that fly down with the arches, kind of like the bats and stuff. I don't know, they seem always like somewhat unpredictable. I think the red guys are a little bit more predictable than the bats. The bats just kind of seem like they do whatever the hell they want to do, whether they're going left or right, who knows. And this is a very sloppy screen. I remember this one. Just getting beat around, which isn't ideal because we still have to go through the maze, and like I said, even though we could plot our course pretty well, we still have to hit a few trap tiles. They're not terrible by any means, but they're still there. So we opt for this route where we have to go down to where the magic container was, just because I think ultimately it offers the path of least resistance. I believe there was a... If you go the other way, you have to hit an actual trap tile where there's enemies. And, I mean, fuck that noise, right? So yeah, we cast life there just to be safe. We got some freaking fire boys here. Again, not a huge fan of these enemies. I feel like ultimately the grind isn't really worth it because you have to use magic and you can get hit a few times, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Good news is we're almost 1,000 away from leveling up again, so could be worse. And now here I'm thinking to myself, where am I going? Ultimately, we decided to go here. There is a particular section where you have to choose your path. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Yeah. This is the red vial area. So even though there's enemies, it's still good. But there is a section where we're gonna have to choose our path. Oh, we got a nice P drop there. And we choose the easier one, in my opinion. And that is going north. If you go the other path, to me anyway, the encounter that you have there is a little bit tougher. I think the encounter there, if I remember correctly, has flying enemies. So I'm less... what's the word? I don't know. Less possible to get hit down here, I guess. I feel like I always get hit a little bit more when I take the other encounter path, so... Alright, now we are en route to the Maze Palace. Again, we're going there to get the boots and defeat Karak. Ah, yes. So, guys, get used to some more grinding. This grind is a little weird, though, I will say. So there is a statue that you can grind, but there is also this enemy, which can make things a little bit difficult. However, when you get the higher attack, you can kill these things in, I think, 2 upward thrusts, which isn't too bad. So it's pretty much the same old song and dance here as the other palaces, just we have another enemy in the fray. And it looks like it's gonna be 2 upward thrusts to kill at this point. It's either attack level 7 or 8, you can kill it in 1, which is great. But if you are able to get it in this pattern, it does give you 50 experience, which is pretty good. So my pattern is the up thrust, and then I kind of wait for it on this ledge, and then I downward thrust. Now, depending on your movements, and I think a little bit of RNG, that thing can go in different patterns, which is a little bit annoying. You'll probably see that once or twice, but ultimately, if you kind of just keep doing the same thing over and over again, you will be able to get 50 a pop, and it did drop AP back. You know, it is an orange enemy, so getting 200 experience in a 2-hitter is pretty good. We're not getting any luck here with the easy statue spawn for 100 experience, of course. You know, like I always say, when you want stuff, you'll never get it in this game. Look, we just keep getting red vials. over and over and over. Thank goodness for the P bag, right? Otherwise it would have cost us probably, the way things were going, maybe another 3 trips to the screen just to get to where we are experience-wise. But if we can kill this guy now, which we can, thankfully, hit the level threshold. And what do we decide to do? This is a tough one, actually. I think we might level up magic. I think that should be the good choice. Let's see what we do. I'm taking a long time deciding here, because it is a tough one. But ultimately, if I level up magic and then I grind life, then we could do attack at the end of the palace. That's what you should do, Cody. Let's see. What do you do? We're waiting. We're waiting for the move. Any day now. Oh, man. See, this is some serious shit right now. Okay? This could be, this could cost us the fucking run. Oh, we cancel. Huh. Oh, you know what I do, guys? I get it now. Your boy's probably gonna cancel again and then go to attack. So you might be in for a grind, is all I'm gonna say. We are, what, 1,480 away from attack? Yep. That's probably what we're gonna do, because like I mentioned before, attack, ultimately, in my opinion, is the best thing to level up, because if you can kill enemies quicker, then you have an easier time, you know what I mean? If you can knock an enemy down from 2 hits to 1, in my opinion, that's worth it way over, you know, having more magic or taking less damage. Because if you kill the enemy quicker, then that's less time for them on the screen to kill you. So, it's probably what we're gonna do. I highly doubt we'd be so wasteful to hit the threshold, you know, and then try to go through. This way we could also set ourselves up for a 2-level palace, which is also good. I think if I remember correctly on this run, I'll probably level up my attack here after we finish grinding, and then I'll probably top off my life. I think I let my magic lag behind in this run, but I can't recall. Oh, P-bag drop, excuse me. Yep. Yeah, I mean, at this point, what? We're really not that far away. It's not that big of a deal. Especially if we keep getting P-bag drops from these guys. Don't discredit them, man. If you can get them in the you know, the pattern, not only are you getting 50 a pop, but you can get 200 here and there, so. Makes things a lot quicker, especially if, you know, you get a statue and a P-bag drop. That's a 300 experience screen. In my opinion, actually, these are the most important grind spots of the game. Being able to top off your magic and your life and get a lot of experience before going into most of the palaces is paramount. For sure. But, as you know, every time it looks like you're about to go really, really fast through an area with grinding, things will slow down a little bit, so. Bear with me here as we make our crawl to 5,000 experience. That'll certainly... Ooh, that'll help. That'll help big time. That'll help. And as always, guys, make sure when you're doing these spots to top off your life when you can, because if you die, the run's over, right? And you are more likely than not going to constantly get the full magic vial, red vial drops. And now, we are less than 250 experience points away, which is wonderful. Not many screens left, even if we don't get red iron knuckles spawning. We're really not that far away at this point. And I mean, hey, if the flying guy decides to drop a P-bag, all the better. If it does not. So all we need now is one of him and one of the red iron knuckles, so this should do it, as long as we're able to kill this guy. Oh, that's right, I remember getting trolled there. Here I was thinking it was time, but it was not. It is not our time yet. Alright, should be good here. Level up that attack, and now I'm pretty confident that we go forward at this point. It's possible I grind though, guys. It really is. Do I grind? We'll find out. If we get a red drop here, do we continue forward? We continue forward, okay. I don't want to bore the viewers or myself that much, so I have to move forward at some point, right? So this palace is a little bit of a pain. Like I said, one of my runs died here. And let me get up the map for the palace just so I can have a little bit better strategy speak. So, we're probably going to avoid most P bags and optional things through here. Oh, my bad. Yeah, for a second I was thinking this was the Ocean Palace. I'm an idiot. It's the Maze Palace. I was like, wait a second, this isn't green. But anyways, still stands true, probably going to avoid most P bags because, you know, if we kill the boss, we can place the crystal and get a level up. So the name of the game is getting the boots. Obviously got to get keys along the way as well. In these areas, I like to cast Jump, break the blocks. I hate these enemies, man, so I'm going to take my time and try to kill them with the downward thrust. At attack level 7, they take 2. At 8, it might be 1. And as always, guys, if you hit these, most of the time anyway, you hit the Iron Knuckle statues, they have an ability to either spawn an Iron Knuckle or give you a red vial, which is what we got there, which is perfect, because now we are topped off after a somewhat annoying screen, I guess. And now, we actually have to do some falling action, surprisingly. Then we're going to head to the right here. We're actually very close to the boots already. But it's one of those tricky things, like, again, if you don't really know where you're going, you know, your instinct is to not fall, and then you don't really know where the fuck you're going once you do start falling, so it's very possible to miss this pretty early on, but yeah, it's pretty quick to get the boots. But we got our favorite dagger sword throwing blue Iron Knuckles who ruined my life because they could also go through the freaking locked areas, which is super annoying. We're gonna probably... Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot that guy dropped there. Cool. I thought I was gonna cast Jump and try to go hit that statue, but I forgot we already got the drop, so... Now with the boots, like I said, we're able to walk on water, which ultimately allows us to get to the Ocean Palace, do some shortcuts here and there, and also there is a hidden heart container by the Ocean Palace on the water. On like a veered off path, so to speak. So, we're gonna drop again, and I believe we're gonna head to the right to go get another key. Yep. So that room could be a little bit tricky. There's flying horsehead enemies, and the floor falls out from beneath you, so keep that in mind. Same strat here. Jump, shield, and we gotta deal with these enemies. Just take your time. You know, they're annoying as is, and they throw projectiles, which could end up killing you. These guys are easy peasy. Do the same old low attack, slide into them sort of thing. Watch out for that, just wait it out. It is not a race, guys, and it looks like there is no Iron Knuckle there, which is fine, because we're not in dire need of either. 2, you know, blue vials will fill us up, so who cares? Let's continue on. And now we have to head over. Yes, this is the flying horsehead section that I mentioned. So just make sure you keep moving and jump over them. Downward thrust if you feel the need, which I do there. They can drop blue vials, obviously, since they're blue enemies. And these are the enemies that you want to cast Reflect for, but I typically don't like wasting my magic, so I just wait and jump over them. By the way, when they're blinking, they can't hit you. So you could use that as a gauge to jump through them. Alright, another one of these areas. So we do shield and jump as always. And then when we make our entrance, we try to do it not directly on top of the key. And we just keep moving forward because it gets these guys in better patterns. When you start taking forever, like I just did here, you get put in really shitty patterns. And that wasn't great, but we ended up getting out relatively smooth, I'm not gonna lie. Thankfully, the shield jump combo really does come in handy there. Move my microphone down a little bit, so sorry if you heard something. But as the run continues, I'm in a recline mode. Before I was sitting up a little bit more, but... So now we've pretty much got everything that we need on the eastern side of the palace, and we gotta head back towards the beginning and head west. Palace isn't super long, and like I said, the boss is really easy. As long as you go in with close to full health and you cast Reflect, you'll be totally fine. So the name of the game for the rest of the palace is getting keys and ultimately getting the boss. Looks like I'm gonna pop out here to try to refill my magic, which is a smart thing to do. There may or may not be a red vial coming up somewhere, but better safe than sorry, right? I don't think I do anything stupid like grind up to 3,500 here. At least I hope not. I'm not in the mood. But if we end up not getting vial drops, man, I can't promise you anything. Oh god, are they tempting me? Guys, they might be tempting me to grind up at this point with fucking pea bags and stuff. I can't remember what I end up doing. I swear the game knows. Like, look, I'm just trying to get vials. That's right, I think I almost die here. Because I can't cast life right now, so I have to be really careful. There we go. I remember I was getting a little concerned at that point. I was going to start getting into a pattern of just leaving until I get my vial drop. What do I do here? Oh my god, they keep dropping pea bags, dude. I think I might grind now, guys. They handed me like 400 to 500 extra experience that I was not expecting at this point. Do I grind? I might. We'll find out as soon as we grab a vial if I go off screen. Do I go off screen? Oh, I push forward. Honestly, I probably should have just grinded. We weren't that far off, but I was probably getting bored, to be honest with you. But with all those pea bag drops, man, it put me in a decent spot. Wouldn't have taken that long, but my mind was probably melting out of my brain, so. In that saying, I mean, you know, my mind is a separate entity. Like a soul, the soul of the brain. Alright, we're bouncing on this guy again, because, you know what, I don't want to deal with your bullshit. Gotta cast jump to get up there. Can you run and jump up there? I don't think you can. I think that's too high. I could be wrong. I think I tried it though before and I couldn't do it, but, you know, jump doesn't cost that much anyway, so who cares? Oh. Did we one-shot him? What? Hold on. I don't know. I could be tripping. Anyway, we got another one of our favorite rooms, but luckily this time it's just this douchebag. No flying heads. I think we're gonna grab, because we might be able to level up organically. Do I end up? What do I do? I am less than 1,000 away, but I don't think that there is 1,000 experience left in the dungeon at this point. Do I end up leaving and going back? I don't know. I'm like so close to leveling up again that it'd be kind of a waste otherwise. We'll see. You know, we don't want to place a crystal with less than 1,000 to go at this point. That is a big waste. But we are going to continue on into the palace. I think occasionally I keep referring to them as dungeons. It's just... it's an RPG habit. Which, yes, Zelda 2 is an RPG. It's an action RPG, 100%. There's levels and spells and technically kind of build varieties. Either way, casting jump through here. Be careful. Even hitting these enemies could be a bit of a pain in the balls. Inch your way up if you're ever nervous, right? And the jump spell really nullifies a lot of the stuff. But we're gonna grab this key, and I think that ultimately this is the final key that we need, so now I gotta make my call. What do I do here? Do I end up just pushing forward and going through and killing the boss, or do we grind up before we get to the boss? I really don't know. We have to walk through 4 more screens, including this one, as one of the 4, before we get to the boss screen. But it looks like I'm pushing on, I don't know. There is a pea bag down below. Oh, I can't remember, man. Do I end up
doing something real stupid, like going all the way to the end and then backtracking. I don't think I do. But who knows, crazier things have happened. Through this area, I think about casting Fairy. Do I? Yeah, I don't. Fairy would be, oh my god, that's right, I remember that. But keep in mind, guys, like I said, if you have Fairy ready to go, if I were to get knocked back, I could still cast Fairy and survive that room. So keep that in mind. That was really sloppy. I was probably better off just casting Fairy regardless, because it would have been the safest route, but I chose not to. Oh my god, the double P bag drop. Oh, what do I do now? I don't remember this. Oh, the double P bag drop, dude. We are so close to leveling up, it hurts. It actually physically hurts. This is the last room before the boss room, too. Do we just fucking go for it at this point? I guess we probably do. Yep, we do. Which is fine. Honestly, guys, it's kind of a waste, but... So like I said, cast Reflect, cast Shield for a little extra, you know, oomph. Get in the corner of the room, bend down, and reflect your spells back on Karak until he dies. It could take a little bit of time, especially if he doesn't get close to you. This is probably, out of the few times that I've, you know, played through the game in practice, this was the most that I've ever seen him spawn on top of me, but as you can see, didn't do too much damage at this point with level 7 life and shield equipped. Oh, we don't have enough magic for jump. Because there's a P bag that we didn't get. Do we have enough? I don't think we have enough magic for jump, man. What the fuck do I do here? I remember this. Oh, I don't have enough magic for jump. Do I end up just saying fuck it? I think I do. If you want my honest opinion there, guys... Well, actually, yeah, there's really nothing you could do. The screen above was the one with those enemies on the floors that break, so it's super dangerous. We didn't have enough magic to get back through. We didn't have enough magic for jump. Yeah, that hurts. That hurts big time. We just play, yeah, oh god. That hurts. We did not have enough magic for jump. We could have leveled up and then used this to kick us to the next threshold. That one is painful, guys. That one is very painful. I cannot lie. That hurt. So now we have another decision to make because we... Ah, man. Yeah, that sucked. And we skip the level. Yeah, watching that hurt me. Not gonna lie. Alright, well anyway, we got the boots, which means we can now technically go to the Ocean Palace. We can walk on water. Not on all water, but most water. As you can see, we weren't able to walk off the one edge, but we were able to walk off here. The Ocean Palace has the flute, which allows us to play for the, what's the enemy? The monster thing? The River Devil? And there was the Ocean Palace, but we're trying to find the path in order to find the hidden heart container. And here's a screen, relatively easy. You could jump up without the jump spell. I think I had shield ready to go because I couldn't remember if there was any enemies here or not, but it doesn't look like it. So now we are one magic container and one heart container away from maxing out our life and magic meters. And let's see, do we go directly into the Ocean Palace, or do we choose to grind outside? Looks like we possibly choose to grind outside, which is totally fine. Oh yeah, I forgot accidentally picking up the link doll. So there's a link doll there, and I mentioned before that there are hidden link dolls scattered throughout the overworld as well as in some dungeons which give you 1-ups. If you grab them, they're gone. So, like, even if you were to die and have to use it continue, if you were to go back there and you already grabbed it, it's gonna be gone. So, keep that in mind. Useless to us, because we're not gonna die, right? So... I'm still reeling from, friggin... just being so close to leveling up at that P-bag, but not having enough magic for jump. We were like super close too. All we needed was a sliver of magic. And now look at us, grinding away like hooligans on 20 experienced enemies that hit kind of hard. Still a decent amount of experience though per segment, and we were killing them in one hit. Ooh, P-bag. Oh, what a wimpy P-bag. You know, those enemies should drop 200 in my opinion. They hit hard. You know what I mean? They're not like a freaking easy enemy in my opinion. Especially in my first playthrough, man, they gave me fits. And they still give me fits. There's plenty of times, like right there. Just getting absolutely demolished by them now. Oh my god. I remember this. This was like such a sloppy screen, dude. Terrible. So bad. What are you gonna do? And now the question begs, do I... Yeah, I figured I did level up my life there. Okay, so now life is maxed out, guys. So all we have to do now is level up magic twice and attack once. And there are 2 more palaces to get instant levels if need be, so keep that in mind. That's where the link doll was. Unfortunately, the attack level threshold is 8,000, which is quite massive, which means magic, I think, will lap it twice, right? Because typically magic requires a lot less experience, but we're popping back into town to top off our magic. And like I said, ultimately we have to go to the Ocean Palace to get the flute, which allows us to go south, which is the end game area, truly. The Hidden Palace is there, there's a few secret spots, and then there's Kasuto Town and New Kasuto Town, and then ultimately the path to in the, what is it, the Grand Palace? I can never remember if it's the Grand or the Grand Palace. So we took another break there. We're about to head into the Ocean Palace. I possibly should have stopped my voiceover again, but I think we're just gonna push forward here. So the one thing to say about this palace, guys, is that I did die here before. This palace is certainly not easy. There's a couple shenanigan-y type of spots for sure. My main advice, honestly, is just try to be careful. I don't believe that the statue outside of the palace drops red vials or iron knuckles, so keep that in mind. In this spot, you unfortunately have to cast Fairy. There might be some kind of weird shenanigans you could do with the enemies, I'm not positive, but just cast Fairy, get through, walk back, and grab the key. I tried to quickly grab the key, and that was a mistake as I got hit. So what makes this palace annoying is the massive amount of magic enemies. Magos, I believe is what they're called. It's not the Wizrobes. The Wizrobes aren't my issue, it's the Magos. They shoot these fire things that kind of stay out a little bit longer than they should, in my opinion, and it gets really annoying. But the sad story is when I died in my previous run, well, not my first death, the previous run I died on the path to the Grand Palace, but the one before that, there was a red vial in the room, hidden in one of the blocks that I did not know until afterwards, because like I said, not an expert on this game. I just play one on YouTube. The path to the right is a useless screen, so that's why we didn't go there. We're going to continue on to a weird, tricky room. There is a key up above and falling blocks. I just equipped the jump spell and kind of hope that we get good RNG with the blocks. You can upward thrust if you're quick. All in all, that was good RNG. That was probably one of the cleanest attempts that I've ever had through there. You know, out of my recorded run, my second run that I did offline, and my 2 failed runs prior to this. Probably the cleanest one I've had. And we try to just get through as quickly as possible. And right now you're probably like, oh, this place doesn't seem too difficult. And honestly, it's not that bad, but you'll see. There we have a red vial that's always there, so that's always good. And these guys are pussies at this point, and they just get killed in one hit, and we know how to deal with the Iron Knuckles, so not a big deal. We're gonna head down and go to the left. And those are the Magos, by the way. There's certain rooms where they are incredibly annoying. Gonna head down again here to the right to grab a key. There's a red Iron Knuckle. You know how to deal with them by now. Not a big deal. And now ultimately we're gonna keep heading right until it looks like it's a dead end with the annoying blue Iron Knuckle enemies. But it's actually not a dead end. There is a secret hole in the wall, which ultimately leads us to a section of the palace where we get another key and then the flute. And then we have to backtrack through. Hate these guys, so I just pogo bounce on top of them. I may or may not kill them on the way back. I probably shouldn't, but who knows what happens. So continuing on here, the best way to deal with Magos, in my opinion, is to keep moving. As soon as you kind of get stuck, that's when things get annoying. And I kind of went off the screen and back up to despawn them and try to get a different pattern. Now these are the rooms that screw me up. Just keep moving. I made the mistake of not moving. I believe that was actually the screen that I died on. I can't remember if it was that one or another one coming up really soon, but something similar to that. I just kept getting like bamboozled by the Magos' fire, and that was all she wrote. So pushing on here, we're able to grab the key. Previously there was another room that we did not enter. You would see the key through the wall, but you can't get to it, obviously. That's like one of those natural progression troll things where, you know, you go to that other room first, and then you're like, ah, fuck. How do I get there? Which ultimately should have your spider senses going to go through the hole in the wall, you know what I mean? Because ultimately you're like, well, shoot, I gotta get over there somehow. So again, in this room, guys, just keep moving. Hit them when you have to, but ultimately, keep steadfast. And now, we're gonna head down, and we're gonna be able to get the flute. This was the room that I died in. Yes, this one. So it's filled with Magos and those dog head, whatever the hell they are. But as you can see, since I keep moving, the heads are in a specific pattern. I'm able to outrun the Magos and everything is fine. But in my run that died, I didn't keep moving. I stopped and I started trying to kill things, and then the dog heads were in really weird patterns and I was just getting fired everywhere. Ate a ton of damage. I think I ended up dying going back through. I think I got to this room and I killed this guy who's always annoying. Back him up against the wall, I guess, if you can. Grab the flute, which again allows us to go to the final area of the game, basically. But, yeah, same thing going through here, guys. Oh, did we get a drop here? Did we get a drop here? I think we do, right? Hell yeah! I think I did not realize that was there in my run, believe it or not. I know, I know. Not liking this spawn here, but I think that he keeps spawning. So at some point I might, yeah, I just throw caution to the wind, and now we keep moving. Again, as soon as you stop, you get really weird. You'll see, right there, that's a perfect example. I got kind of screwed by the Mago spawn, and I ended up getting bamboozled for a little bit. But ultimately, we're fine, we have a full magic bar. We can cast life if we want to, which it looks like I'm deciding. I decide not to. Okay. I think I'm trusting my skills, apparently, and then at that point I'm like, fuck that, I don't trust my skills anymore. So we have to head back through the hole in the wall. And now, ultimately, on to the final areas of the dungeon. Palace, excuse me. There's a bunch of pea bags over on the next side that we're going to. There's one more key. There's an area that's entirely optional, but there's a lot of chances to get good experience from enemies and red vial drops down below. Don't remember if I go there or not, because we're pretty far away from the next experience threshold. You know what I mean? So there was a pea bag down below, which I chose not to get. I also choose not to get that pea bag, and we continue on over here. And then actually on the next screen, there's going to be another pea bag, and then when we go down again, there's pea bags everywhere. So If you're close to leveling up, this is actually a pretty good ending spot because you can get a lot of experience points. Here we are choosing what we want to do. Luckily, we have a statue head drop, which I think is guaranteed. So we topped off our life and then grabbed it. Another one of these annoying rooms. Just keep moving, guys. Don't forget your downward thrust. And now, this is the final key that we need. This room could be a little bit tricky. Ultimately, I do cast jump, yep. Because we don't want to deal with this guy. Who wants to? Nobody does. And we're going to, quote-unquote, drill down. And jump allows us to get back out really easily, that's why we cast it. And we'd much rather deal with this fool, who has the ability to drop a red vial. He did not, but that's fine. We're still doing really good on magic, and I think that there's still one more guaranteed red vial before the end. I don't recall. The room before the boss is actually very annoying, and the boss is really weird. I also read that this boss is not in the Japanese version of the game. Strange, right? I think it's like another Iron Knuckle type boss or something. Anyway, with this guy, I find that you can just keep pressuring him with a crouch, and then eventually, you know, finish him off. I just skip right through that guy, because fuck it. Here you obviously have a chance to get a vial drop, but we're fine. We're about to take on the boss now. For this boss, I recommend shield, clearly. Jump can also be very useful. Don't remember if I choose it or not. Yeah, I end up not. So you have to hit him in his midsection. Now, your reach sucks, his reach is good, and he hits pretty easily. The two ways that I find to be able to attack him, when he comes forward to you after his attack, that's an easy way. If he backs off, it's very difficult to get him, so keep that in mind. You could just literally walk right up to him and jab him if you do it cleanly. Otherwise, you can kind of do this weird jump in, as long as you don't hit his head, because that part of his hitbox is not very good. It's a little bit more skill-oriented to kill him by jumping in. And there we got pressured, but luckily we had enough magic for life. If we had our jump spell, we would have been able to give ourselves more space, but ultimately, we cast life there at the end and kind of just mash through. And all was well. And the Ocean Palace is done, which is good stuff. And so is my voiceover for this segment. Oh, we level up magic. And now I'm done. Alright. Done with the Ocean Palace. Now it's time to travel to Kasuto Town area. You guys saw the brief delay there. Is basically because couldn't remember where to go. So, working our way back to the road. As you know, the road means you cannot have random encounters on it, which helps. Not about to use fire right now. But anyways, we are 7/7/8 so that's something to keep in mind. Only 2 levels away from maxing out. We play our flute there to get rid of the monster / devil or whatever the case may be. Now we have some annoying trap tile segments. We're going to try to get a random encounter, to skip one at least. If you're successful. I'm pretty sure you can't skip the next ones. So we're just going to go through. Basically what these are, these dudes just like throw stuff at you. And there's some enemies throughout, as you can see, one of the guys that you have to kill with fire, which could be kind of annoying. I usually just go with the fairy here. It's a little bit easier to get through unscathed. Yeah, obviously you're using magic, but it's not too big of a deal. So, what's our next goal? Couple things to do here in the next area. Looks like I chose not to go fairy here. So after we remove the monster and continue on through this path, there's 2 Kasuto towns. There's, I guess, old Kasuto town and new. The new one is where everybody went because the old one's like infested with like monsters and ghosts and all this kind of stuff. So the old one is really only useful for one thing, is to get the Thunder spell. Now, the cross is an item that you get in the Hidden Palace, which we're about to go to as well. That allows you to see hidden enemies, such as the hidden ghosts in Old Kasuto Town. But, realistically, you don't really need it. There's not much to look for there. In the very first house is where you get the Thunder Spell. So if I remember correctly, I think we grabbed the Thunder Spell before we even get the cross, but that's not where we're going yet. We're doing a little bit of, I'm fairly certain that I grind up at least one more level, because like I said, the the grind spots start to get really good soon. I mean, they kind of already are, but you'll see in a little bit. But heading to New Kasuto Town, which is actually a hidden town up through this cave area. You have to use, I guess you technically use your hammer to smash through the woods. In my headcanon, Link chops down the trees, but whatever. Doesn't really matter, I guess. A couple of good things, though, in New Kasuto Town as we continue to push on towards there. You get a magic container in a house. You get the spell, which, honestly, I don't really use much at all in this run, but it's pretty useful in areas with crappy flying enemies. And then lastly, pretty much the main use of the spell is to unearth a hidden tower thing in New Kasuto Town that allows you to get the magic key, which means you no longer need to find keys throughout the dungeons, which is pretty cool. So it makes it a more straight-through experience. This is the screen I was telling you guys about. Very, very easy, the best grind spots in the game, bar none. As long as you continue to move, and you downward thrust on those orange guys, you will hit them, they will be vulnerable. If you wait a little bit or you screw it up just slightly, they usually get their defenses up. Kind of screwed that up there, but luckily I was able to get a headshot in. It's super duper easy and rhythmic to get this done. The only thing you have to worry about is occasionally the spiders will drop down on you as you're going in and doing it. But as you can see, it's a very cool 300 plus experience. Very quick to do. Doesn't take long at all. And occasionally they also drop P-bags, which gives you, I think, 200 instead of 150 apiece, so. And as you can see, they also drop red vials, which actually, you know, even though I wanted experience, it was pretty good there. I wasn't even looking at the screen. Anyway, there we go, we got the heart container. I believe that's the last heart container of the game, and the last magic container, like I said, is in New Kasuto Town. So yeah, realistically at this point we're going to be maxing out the magic there. I feel like I don't go 888 in the Hidden Palace because obviously since you place the crystal, you're going to be able to get a free level up at the end, which will max us out as long as we get one more level here, which I probably do, and then what do I do though? Do I grind up to, I think it's 8,000 to max out attack? I can't recall if I think I might grind up to 8 attack to go into the Hidden Palace because as I mentioned numerous times, attack is the most important thing in the game. And then we could just max out magic before the final dungeon, which is very paramount because the final dungeon requires a lot of magic usage, especially if you suck at the game like me. So yeah, this stuff's a little bit boring, I guess. I'm gonna be doing this grind for quite a bit. Oh, one thing to note, by the way, you have to have a full magic meter. I think it's, well, let me count the magic meters right now. 3, 4, yeah, I think you have to have full 8 bars, otherwise you don't get the Thunder Spell. So, I believe you have to max out magic to get Thunder Spell, and the Thunder Spell is required to beat the game because without it you can't beat the second to last boss. It basically unearths the boss's weakness. So, very important, you know, not just recommended, but very important and necessary to grab all your magic containers. However, you don't need all the health containers. But that would be kind of foolish of you to not grab them. So to be completely honest with you guys, there's really not much to talk about at the moment. I'm just going to be grinding, so I'm going to mute myself for a little while. And when I see myself actually making moves towards doing something else, I'll pop back in, where we will be heading to New Kasuto Town.
Alright, popping back in as we are about to reach the 6K threshold, which again, I believe I skip. Yes, I do skip it, so we are going to be on the road to 8,000 to max out our attack, which makes me feel a little bit better going into the Hidden Palace with a max attack. Again, the easier it is to kill enemies, the easier the game gets, right? So definitely could skate by without 8 magic, and we will just get that 8 magic when we place the final crystal on the way out of the palace. And at this point, I guess I'll just stick around, not mute myself, because we will get there before you know it, you know, especially when you're dropping P-bags. Told you guys, it's really not that bad. Especially if for whatever reason you're lower levels, it's like power level central when you get to this point. But yeah, the Kasuda towns are very important. Lots of items and spells and upgrades and stuff to get before basically heading into the final gauntlet. You pretty much go from the Hidden Palace to the path into the Grand Palace. And I mentioned earlier that my run previous to this one ended in the path to the Grand Palace, which could be a nightmare. So I hope that I can give you guys some good commentary and gameplay for that section to help you along if you're having trouble yourself, because when I played that casually, dude, I was losing my mind. I used a couple of continues, I think. I definitely remember having to edit out a run back because I had to use a continue and I was freaking annoyed. And it could be really rough without some of the random encounter manipulation. The trap tiles there are nuts. But we're about to hit that 8 level threshold. Very, very shortly. We ran into the quote-unquote tougher encounter, which it is, and it gives you less experience. Go figure. I don't like fighting these guys particularly, and because we ran into it and not the other one, we aren't able to level up there. One more will do the trick though. And then I can't remember if I head back to town to top off or if I just push forward. We'll find out shortly. Looks like I'm thinking about it. Oh, what was I doing there? Was I trying to get a, I might have been trying to get a fairy? Yeah, I'm definitely not grinding at this point. Yeah, I think I'm half-heartedly trying to get a fairy. That's what's going on. And do we end up retreating? I'm very indecisive, I remember this. And at this point, guys, we only have 1 level remaining magic to get to 8, so we're not actively going to be grinding at all. Even if a bunch of enemies drop P-bags. I mean, I'll grab them, of course, but like I did there. But it's not our goal anymore. Our goal is to just push forward, get the necessary upgrades and spells and whatnot, and then continue on to the Hidden Palace. Which isn't so hidden. It's very obvious, especially if you talk to people in the towns. Here we are, we're going to be chopping the forest away with a hammer. I don't know. It is what it is. And now we're in New Kasudo Town, which is not infested by ghosts, so that's always good. And I believe this is the house that has the final magic container, which then allows us to get the Thunder Spell from Old Kasudo. Yep, there we go. Alright. So now, we're gonna go get the spell, which apparently you need to have 7 bars of magic, meaning even if I didn't go in there to get that one, we could still get the spell and the magic key. Also, I apologize if you guys keep hearing sloshing. I drank a lot of liquid before this voiceover session, and my stomach is gurgling.
That happens when you drink a shit ton of water, right? So we just topped off there, and now we're en route to get the spell, which again, guys, if you have trouble with flying enemies, the path to the Grand Palace, the spell can bail you out in a big way. I don't know if you saw there, but we went into the chimney area. It was very quick. So in that house, you have to press up while in front of the chimney opening. But like what the spell will do, it'll take like those flying, like shitty ghost enemies and the eyes and it'll turn them into bots and stuff like that. So it can be very useful if you're having trouble, especially near pitfalls. So at this point, we're gonna go get the magic key, which requires us going to the end of New Kasuto Town and casting spell in this big open area. And then you simply enter the structure and go in and collect the magic key. So after getting the magic key, I believe that we're gonna go backtrack to Old Kasuto to get the Thunder Spell. Again, you don't need to get it right away, but I like to just get it out of the way before the Hidden Palace, just to kind of make things a little bit more streamlined, you know what I mean? Kind of, at that point, you're sort of just focused on getting through the palaces and the random encounters, and that's that. We are nearing the end, people, of this illustrious journey. This particular run looks like it was a shade under 3.5 hours. It was grueling. The practice, the failed runs, it was grueling. As somebody that doesn't do this for a living and doesn't have all the time in the world, even this voiceover has been grueling. So, I hope that my goal, what's my goal here? Obviously, I wanted to do this, you know, for myself, right? Because I could tell myself, hey, I beat Zelda 2 without dying, that's pretty cool. But ultimately, the purpose of all these fucking videos, especially the ones with the commentary, I want to give you guys tips if you're struggling with the game yourself. And I've had numerous people on my videos and on Reddit say that I've helped them along the way in certain spots, this, that, and the other, and that makes me feel good, you know what I mean? Because I don't know how many times, you know, you play retro games, man, they're so cryptic. You'll have to look stuff up. You know, sometimes it's hard to read and kind of translate it, so if you could see it being done and, you know, in a way being taught to you, makes things a lot easier. I guess I was probably trying to farm for a fairy. I think that makes sense. I don't really know. I don't really know what I was doing there, to be honest with you guys. Probably could have did a better job avoiding things. But here we have another pitfall area, so we're going to cast Fairy before going to Old Kasuto Town, which I said we're going to get Thunder there. And then on the way back, if you have enough magic, I would probably cast Fairy again. Can't remember what I do. I remember at times during this run I got ballsy for no reason. You might see me get hit. Oh, nope, I hit the enemy. So, without the cross, you can't see those enemies, and that's basically the shtick for that. I think actually if you don't have the cross on the way to the Grand Palace, a lot of those enemies you can't see at all, which would make certain segments almost impossible. It's just like a roll of the dice if you could even get through those platforming areas without seeing anything. So, go grab the cross, guys. But now we are done. We have all the spells, all the containers. We just have one more level to go for magic. And that's that. There, we got hit by an invisible enemy. So we're gonna go to the Hidden Palace, just over this bridge. We do cast Fairy once more, because I believe that you could you could farm the statues outside of the Hidden Palace. I remember that now. That is possible. So what you do is you stand kind of dead in the middle of all three of these, and you play your flute, and it unearths the palace. Now the only annoying thing is if you don't get the drops that you want from the statue, you have to keep going back and playing the flute, which is obviously not as quick as the other palaces by a few seconds. So we probably get, I don't know, very cooperative there. Gotta love it. Alright, so onward and upward into the Hidden Palace, which actually isn't that bad. The thing that makes the Hidden Palace bad is that there is a pretty cryptic section in order to advance. Now, I got lucky because in my Let's Play, my original first playthrough, I had a power outage, and I was pretty far into the Hidden Palace. I had basically figured out what to do and where to go. So I looked a lot smarter than I really was during my Let's Play, to say the least. Anyways. So I like to cast Jump to jump over those. I think you don't have to, but those jumps are tricky, man, and if you fall down, you pretty much just set yourself back. So I'm not about that life. Speaking of that, you're gonna see an annoying little room coming up. Well, this is annoying too. Wizrobes and shooting head statues, my favorite. Okay, so the room after this one, there is a hidden pitfall that we're gonna want to jump over, otherwise we're gonna miss the cross. I'll try to point it out there for you guys, but other than farming, you could skip most of this area, it's not a big deal. And you can make this jump without jump. Thankfully we did. So, after the third statue, I think we're gonna cast Jump to make things a little bit more consistent. As you can see, we did. After the third statue, I think it's 2 blocks after the statue, you have to jump. There's gonna be a gap in the floor, which is a hidden gap that I did fall down during my first playthrough, before the power went out. There it is. So it was 2 blocks after that third statue. I do a running jump with the jump spell equipped, and we clear the gap. And now we're in the room with the cross, guarded by a mini-boss, who is basically the boss that we fought a few palaces ago, right? The blue iron knuckle on the horse. The only good thing is we're a lot stronger now, so things go down quickly. 2 hits. Not bad. Grab the completely unnecessary key, I believe. Although, who knows, maybe there's something in the code that differentiates that from the magic key holding items. I have no idea. So now we have the item of the dungeon, and our main goal at this point is just clearing the boss of the dungeon. So let's work our way towards that. What's the boss's name here? I can't remember. It's like a dragon. Oh yeah, Barba. Barba. I actually like this boss. This boss is pretty cool. I haven't had any trouble with it during like any of my attempts or playthroughs or even practice. Just a cool looking kind of gimmick boss that I enjoy, actually. I don't know, nothing special to it by any means, but... So at this point, I'm probably gonna backtrack out and try to top off, since I don't need to go this way. We actually have to go back. Do you remember early on in the palace, there was a gap that I jumped over with the jump spell. We actually have to fall down there now, but considering I'm low on magic and halfway out on life, I'm gonna go back to the beginning of the palace to farm for red vials. Why do I feel like I almost die? I think I might. Obviously I don't die, but there was a couple close calls in this run, for sure. All in all, I think I did a pretty good job with the path 2 in the Grand Palace, but there was a couple of spots, as you guys saw throughout the run so far, they were a little rough. And again, I can't stand the fade to black artifacting that the Elgato does for some reason. I don't really understand it. And it's funny because the first time that it ever happened to me was actually on The Legend of Zelda. It's almost as if there's something in the code. Who knows? So we're just gonna farm for... We don't want you, sir. We're gonna be very careful. Even though it's annoying to blow the flute and stuff, just be careful, guys. There's no need to push the envelope and get killed by a red iron knuckle in the Hidden Palace. That would be very tragic at this point. Oh, thank you for the pea that we don't need. Alright, cool. Now we can continue on. So when we go down the elevator, we're gonna go... well, down, and then right once again. and then we're actually going to willingly fall down the holes. And we're now under a half hour left in the run. Good stuff. Yeah, the end of the game, like I said, it's pretty streamlined. Once you get all these spells and items and stuff, there's like nothing else to do but just beat it, you know what I mean? So as long as you know where to go and you have the skills and the strats, it doesn't take that long. Alright, so now we're gonna fall down. And we're gonna fall down again. And now we're gonna make sure to jump off to the right. We actually did it to where we just held right, but if you land on a platform, you gotta make sure that you jump off to the right. So if you don't feel comfortable, make sure you have like fairy or jump or something equipped. Ready to rock. So we're gonna have an annoying segment once again. You need a lot of magic to get through this area, by the way. There will be a couple of mandatory fairy castings, and then recommended shield, reflect, so on and so forth. So I do farm these enemies once in a while, and this is definitely an instance of that. Thankfully, the drops are not too bad. You know, we got one already, we just need one more. I wouldn't say the boss of this area is that difficult, meaning like if I were to go in with a couple of life bars short, I wouldn't really worry about it, but you do have to cast fairy twice to get to the boss, so that's a lot of magic consumption, which can be kind of annoying to people who don't like to farm. I would wager that potentially speedrunners would kill themselves in this palace so they can get a full bar of magic without having to do this stuff. Those are like the differences between no death runs and speed runs, right? Like, I am having to sit here and farm boring stuff because I have to. Like, I don't have the luxury of killing myself and getting full bars, you know? But I'm very, very glad that I did the no death run, because for a while, for like a few days, I was just gonna do a no continue run, and I said, fuck that, I could do this. And I did, so add it to the list. Just take your time through here, make sure you're jumping over the Wizrobe stuff, Iron Knuckles, same old, same old. This is gonna be a fairy room, guys, as the bottom floor is lava. Pretty sure there's no secrets, there's no hidden pitfalls, you just fall down and you die, so you have to get through here with fairy. I don't know if there might be some sort of weird shenanigans where you could bounce off of those things all the way over, probably not. Now we're gonna work our way over a couple of screens, and then ultimately we have to fall down again, and then on one of the fall down stages we're gonna have to cast fairy quickly and go into the right side, which leads us to the boss. However, we have another one of these guys, mini bosses, recycled. We are gonna need more magic, so I think, well, I know that I go down to an area that you don't have to go down to, because there are some red Iron Knuckles, I think, and possibly a red skeleton down there, which have the ability to drop the full magic vials, but I don't think I get lucky, which means, yes, you guys probably could take a guess, I go back and I start farming that blue little spiked thing for small vials. I'm pretty sure I don't get lucky with magic drops down here. So this area that I'm in right now, you do not need to go. This is ultimately basically where you end up if you don't cast fairy to go into the side wall, which you will see a little bit later. But yeah, we got very unlucky there. We had a blue guy not drop a vial, and we had a red Iron Knuckle not drop a vial, so we're in need of some magic, guys, because we want to be able to cast fairy, we want to be able to cast shield and reflect, and jump. Jump is also pretty important against this boss to make things a little bit easier. So, we're gonna commence the boring grind of this guy. And for whatever reason, transitioning into this room, we get a lot of artifacting, don't we? But it's not consistent, isn't that weird? Like, I just went back and forth and it was nothing but black. Same there. There we get like a weird artifact, I don't know. Tech stuff, you know? If it doesn't bother you that much, I guess it doesn't bother me. It is what it is. That's one thing too, I noticed, not every game back in the day does a straight fade to black transition. You know what I mean? So I don't notice it in a lot of games, but The games that do have a lot of fade to black transitions, when you do them frequently, stuff like that happens. But it's inconsistent. My guess is it has to do with random sprite placement and stuff like that as you're entering and exiting the room. Probably still running code, and then it doesn't jive well with the capture card. Alright, so do I go all out and try to farm for 2 vials, or do we just accept the 1? Since we are far into the run, I would wager that we just continue on and farm until we're full, but we will see. I don't really know if there's a better spot to farm. I really don't think there is, because the one room that's adjacent to this to the left is the room where you have to cast Fairy to get over. So, just kinda, it is what it is. Alright. Looks like we just deal with what we got, which is totally fine. More than enough to get through. I hit those because I don't remember if they have full vials in them or not, but clearly they didn't. So now we're gonna have Fairy selected, we're gonna drop, gonna make sure it's selected again, and then cast it. And go into this hole, which will lead us to Barba! You could just kind of fly over this guy. Not like it would be too difficult anyway. Alright, so for Barba, we are going to have Shield, Reflect, and Jump. And if we have enough, we'll heal ourselves, but I don't think we do. This little jump can be tricky, so make sure you're close to the ledge when you do it. And I like to hang out here against this boss. I feel like most of the time the boss spawns over here. As you can see, Reflect, if it hits your shield, the boss's projectiles won't hurt you. And Jump helps you hit the boss's head. Oh, I think this is the run where I almost fall in after I kill him? It was either the one before this or this one. We'll find out. It's pretty funny. I remember thinking to myself, oh my god, I almost died after I killed the boss. Is it this one? Oh yeah. So, I don't know if I just got lucky there or the boss's hitbox blocked me from falling in, but I could have sworn I was about to fall into that lava. Thankfully we didn't. And we now place our last crystal, which will allow us to be 888 heading into the final areas of the game. So, there are no more levels to be had. You can keep hitting experience point thresholds as you see 9,000, but ultimately, you are where you are. I realize it could probably make you super overpowered, but I'm not gonna lie, I kinda wish that this game allowed you to grind past 888. Just to reward people that enjoy grinding. You know, I think you can get obviously major use out of advanced life and magic for people that struggle with the game. Attack, not so much. Although I guess in the last palace there are some tough enemies that an attack power hypothetically of 9 or 10 would do a lot of damage, make things easier, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So now, we're gonna head to the path to the Grand Palace. I definitely take another break before that. So let me get the Grand Palace map up before I forget for later. So we got more of this crap from earlier, right? Gonna cast Fairy. Those blue guys, as you move back, they move back as well. That's something to keep in mind. They have very janky movement that the more you play, you'll figure it out. And we're gonna go over here to top off our life and our magic, as there is a non-respawnable red vial, and then I believe that we take a break in our recording, but I'm not taking a break in my voiceover. There we go, that was my final break, as I died on my previous run in this general area, and I was triggered. So, what's the goal here, guys? The goal here is we're taking our time, we're staying on this platform, and killing these enemies before we proceed, because we don't want to get pitfalled. However, please be aware that these enemies can be a pain in the dick because of the fact that those red eyes aren't vulnerable all the time, and the flight paths of these blue guys can be quite annoying. However, this is a desired encounter over the ones that were supposed to be here. See, I'm manipulating it with pauses. So, since I did that, we now have a big monster spawn instead of the typical trap tile, which is a nightmare. The typical trap tile has these basic enemies, but it'll thrust you into a small corridor, I think twice, with tough enemies with shields. it's like almost impossible for somebody of my skill level to get through there without getting hit a bunch. So we're gonna constantly be manipulating the RNG with pausing and unpausing to get random encounters on trap tiles until we get to the Grand Palace. And ultimately, it makes things a lot easier, because if you just take your time and you come in here with 8 attack, you could make mincemeat of these enemies and continue on. So whenever you see me stop, it's because I'm trying to manipulate, which I did there. I didn't get it, so I left. Now we're gonna wait for the enemies to spawn again, try to manipulate the pause. We're gonna move up into it, and it looks like it worked. So like I said, even if you're not moving onto a tile the same time as one of the sprites is, as long as you're moving into it with it, so to speak, it will still register that you hit the random encounter. And it will bypass the trap tile, which I do not recommend doing. The trap tiles are probably, if I'm gonna be honest with you guys, probably the hardest trap tiles and enemies encounters in the game by far. By far. So now we're gonna make a beeline for the cave. It's gonna be basically more of the same. This is a perfect screen where if you wanted to get through very quickly, cast the spell, as these enemies will just like turn into bots and you can kind of just like walk through and bounce off of them. But realistically, there's no pitfalls here, so as long as you're careful, you can kind of go through pretty quick. And we're gonna go back to, soon enough, back to outside and manipulating more encounter tiles. I'm not about this life right now, so I got lucky and killed him, but you know, I just wanted to get over him. Alright. Manipulating more trap tiles, baby. Give me these all day. I will gladly take it. Because there's plenty of opportunity for farming spots and red vials in the Grand Palace. So, as long as you get there, I mean, even in your regular playthroughs, I don't know if everybody knew this, but if you get to the Grand Palace and you die and you have to use a continue, it'll start you there again. It won't be that cruel to start you back at the beginning. Alright, so we're manipulating some tiles again here. That one was very easy. We got very, very, like, cooperative enemy encounters on the way up. I didn't have to, like, redo a bunch, thankfully. Also, I didn't get screwed to the point where, like, you know, I'm trying to manipulate a trap tile, I accidentally move or I have to move, and then, you know, I have to fight a bunch of extra random encounters for no reason. All is going very smoothly. And here we go. The last cave before we get to the Grand Palace. Again, just, you know, do your thing. Utilize your skills. A little rough here, as you can see, we're a little stuck. I end up floating on top of him because I'm like, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? Thankfully, we're able to get over. I was about to cast Life and freak out, but thankfully, we got over and he moved, and now we're at the Grand Palace, which, very, very important, guys, to route this palace. I'm not positive, but I could have sworn that there was, like, dead ends in this palace, but I actually think that there's not. I think that technically it's possible to get to where you need to go by going the quote-unquote wrong way, but it just takes a lot longer and it's a lot harder. So as soon as you go down, you make a left, and this is a spot that you can grind for blue vials if need be. Looks like I'm going to. There's going to be a bunch of blue bots. They're a little bit tougher than the average bots, clearly, if they're taking 2 hits at 8 attack power. In order to respawn them, you kind of walk to the right and then walk back to the left. Pretty much, I'm just trying to be as careful as possible at this point. This is the furthest that I got along on my no-death run. My skills are very, very confident against Thunderbird and Dark Link, so we're just trying to make sure that we get through. Now, you didn't see me fall through because I didn't do it, but there is a hidden pitfall there near the column in that area with the blue bots, so make sure you jump over that like I did. Once you go down, you're going to make your way to the right. The screen before this and this screen actually don't have any enemies on them, which is weird. I don't know if they did that on purpose, like Simon's Quest throwback, how the Dracula's Castle area has like no enemies in it. But the rest of the palace, we're not so lucky. So we're going to be constantly casting shield and trying to pogo our way over crappy enemies. This was not a great one, but thankfully the shield absorbed a decent amount of damage. And now these rooms. So these rooms are also good rooms to farm because, as you know, these flying enemies infinitely spawn. So if you're in need of magic vials, go for it. Now, as you can see, you do have to be careful because these guys have weird hitboxes, as you remember. Sometimes you'll just kind of fall through them and then end up getting hit. But this is not the last instance of these you gotta break blocks and get through. There is one very, very tough room with a blue bird type enemy similar to the red one that we saw, but he's like a mixture of the blue iron knuckle and the bird, and it's like, he's so relentless, it's terrible. Definitely a potential run ender room. Thankfully, obviously, we don't get our run ended there. So we're gonna do a little bit of vial farming. But again, don't fear. There are instances of red vials littered throughout the Grand Palace. We're just being overly cautious. There's about less than 10 minutes left in the actual run, so we don't want to blow it. That's why we're doing what we're doing. There's actually going to be a tough screen to, well, sort of a tough screen coming up with one of the cruddy enemies, and then you gotta work your way up some stairs that go diagonal up, and then you gotta break through some blocks and go down. Then we're gonna have the ability to do one of the Iron Knuckle statue farms, where it's either gonna be an enemy or a red vial, except I think it's the bird people, and not the Iron Knuckle. Thunderbirds. And obviously if you end up getting the bird instead of the vial, you could leave and go back. However, pretty sure that you need to cast the jump spell in those rooms. I don't think that, no matter how much you build up your running jump, I don't think you can get up there to hit the statue without it. So you gotta keep that in mind. You're playing a game of chance at that point. You might end up running out of magic and never getting a red vial drop, so. But, you know, it's a 50-50 chance, so as long as you have the ability to cast jump a few times, you're good. And this is one of the crappy rooms. Took a little too long there with the blue bot. Thankfully, it doesn't look like we're going to get punished too much. As you can see, these enemies are very relentless. They will follow you. So we're going to go through the hidden hole in the wall here. This is what I'm talking about. You got to cast a jump up and hit the statue, and we're hoping for a vial. We did not get it, which does suck. But since we still have enough magic, we could leave the screen, rinse and repeat, and hope that we get a vial drop. I think we do get one, either this time or the third time. I don't think it takes 4 attempts. There we go. But I don't believe that these respawn like most of them inside the palaces. You know, that's the way they've acted the whole game. It's not like the outside ones, so at this point we're going to continue on. We're not going to go... There's another hidden hole in the wall there, but I think it's a troll area if I remember correctly. And we're going to go right after going down that elevator corridor area. Kind of getting fucked up here by this dude. Similar to enemies earlier in the game, you can kind of pressure them and move forward. The only thing that sucks is the fire comes back at you, which kind of ruins the strat, right? And here's another area, actually, that you can continue to farm if you'd like. But I think I choose not to, because isn't there another... I think there's a vial drop up there too, actually. Let's see. I think I'm thinking if I'm gonna jump spell, or if I'm gonna try to run jump. Do we just jump spell? I'm crunching magic numbers in my brain at this point. But we're actually getting pretty close to the end now at this point. There we go. And now I don't recall if this is the same story as the other area, where it might be an enemy, but we took our chances there, just wanting to top off completely. And now we're going to be approaching some shitty areas. Now the beginning of this area is not too shitty. It's this next segment. So what we're going to do is, obviously you saw me cast shield and jump, because we're going to want to take the high road, the high ground. Because this guy, Jesus fucking Christ, this guy. Look at this. Are you looking at this? And he has every bit of determination as the red one, if not more. He will follow you till hell and back, and I'm not having a good, clean exit through here. Look at this shit, dude. He can keep following you, it's nuts. Thankfully it wasn't too bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't too bad. So we're gonna work our way through here, avoid these pitfall segments, and continue on down. And now this looks like it's gonna be a boss room, right? Well, surprisingly it's not. We have a jacked up version of the respawning skull guys, and more flame birds. And now here's another shitty segment, so cast your shield, cast jump, whatever the hell you want to do to get through here. I think I end up almost dying here. Is this accurate? No, might have been in the, one of my practice runs or something, I don't remember. But this is a crappy room. And here we have another instance of exactly what we saw earlier, the ability of getting a red vial drop. And thankfully, the RNG gods were very generous and gave us one on our first try, but as usual, if you get the bird and you have more magic, you can kind of go off and reset it and go back for more. So, we didn't cast life because there's a fairy in this room. Be careful though, if you fucking go down too quick with your sword, you can kill yourself. So please be careful, guys. But we're almost done. I'm gonna explain probably the most cryptic part of the palace to you guys. We're gonna go down the elevator, and we're gonna end up heading left, I believe. I think right is completely pointless. There might be a link doll in the right area or something, but not for this run, we don't need it. We're just gonna try to get through this guy, and there's gonna be a hidden gap that we have to fall down. I think it's the 5th block? Yes, it is. So you break the 5th block and you fall through the floor. And then we're going to continue right, and then we have to make another semi-cryptic drop. Make sure you have the upward thrust there so you don't get screwed up. We're going to have to drop through this middle gap coming up after these enemies. Now be careful, those enemies can jump at you. It's best to have your downward thrust on. And here we are, guys. We're at the precipice of the end of the run. What I'm doing over here is this block has the ability to drop a vial or an enemy. There's actually 2 blocks like that in that particular area. So even though we're almost topped off, we're being very, very cautious. The Thunderbird is more of a threat than Dark Link. So we will continue to farm until we have full life and full magic, as we're going to be consuming a lot of magic for the Thunderbird fight. So however long it takes is however long it takes, guys. And like I said, there is another red vial block to the left of this that we may or may not get before Dark Link, we'll see. So now we're topped off and ready for the final boss gauntlet. Alright, so Thunderbird. We have to cast Thunder in order to hit it when it's on the screen. But since we have full magic, we're going to cast Shield, Jump, and Reflect, which will help us minimize the damage, and when the boss comes on the screen, we will cast Thunder, which will turn it blue, and now we can hit it in the face. So the idea here is to jump and hit it with Jump equipped. You're able to hit it at a higher peak. Reflect, if it hits you in the shield, the projectiles will not do any damage, and obviously Shield helps minimize damage done to you. Just do your best to try to avoid the projectiles. The projectiles remind me almost of like the final boss in Ninja Gaiden, and even Contra at times. Wow, we really fucked up Thunderbird there, didn't we? That was a very, very clean fight for me. Wasn't too difficult at all. Alright, I decide to not go back for Dark Link. We're just gonna cast Shield, and we're gonna go to the left of the screen, which is the quote-unquote Dark Link cheese. When you're over there, you could hit him much more easily than he could hit you. The only way he could really hit you is if he does a downward jump thrust on you, which I think he does, but we have plenty of health, so I'm not really concerned with Shield equipped. We're just gonna wait back and continue to swipe at him. He's almost dead. I think he might jump on me one more time in this run. Is that my practice run, or was it this one? Can't remember. Oh, yep, it was this one. Alright. And that's it, guys. That's Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, No Deaths. Now, I guess, sit back and enjoy the ending. Hopefully you guys picked something up from this run. If you did, I'm glad. And I hope that you could either beat the game or beat the game without dying as well, because this is a true classic. And stay tuned for a Bitscast in the coming days, possibly the day after this is released, or 2 days or 3 days, who knows, where I will go more in depth for Zelda 2. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next Deathless run. Take care.